Listen, just dip it, man. Take that healing hammer advice, baby. Just,
I had skeletons like that. Like real talk, I had skeletons
yeah,
like that in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Like I started playing like fourth ed, the old like
yeah. Oh, I know.
resins, like the old
Yep.
resins, right? The ones that like if you left in the sun, they started to like sag.
Hmm.
Like those
Yeah,
fuckers.
where the hand bones were the same thickness as the thigh bones because
Yeah,
of the sculpting. Yeah.
yeah. No, I did do the dip technique because it was in a white dwarf or some shit, or maybe it
Yeah.
was like someone at the store was talking about it, and I did do that and just painted little red eyes on them.
Yep. The Minwax future floor wash stuff, and
Uh,
guaranteed to give you lumpy skeletons that look halfway decent from 10 feet away.
yeah, no, this. I mean, when you're, back then, I think the standard was 2,500 points, which I never fully reached
Yikes.
before fifth ed came out, or before fifth
Uh,
edition uh, uh, fantasy came out. I never quite got to. So we were doing like team battles where like I would play like what I did have with my friends, lizardmen, or my friends high elves. My friend Sam talk about them pretty often.
mhm.
Against like his brother or his brother and his friend, and so we usually played like little like mosh kind of games. Um, which were actually a blast. Like that was my like earliest memories of Warhammer, and then I played 40K and we had to take it seriously, and it got less fun.
Oh, you had to take it
It
seriously.
had to.
Yeah.
Oh, I played with some of the groggiest grognards that have ever grognarded when it came to 40K, but like totally the big fish small pond sort of like it was just a store of that guys. Like it
Yeah.
was everyone trying to out that guy each other. None of them having actually been to Adepticon, but like one of them maybe went like 3 years ago and talked about like that sort of circle.
Yeah, well, we were right up the road from Glen Burnie, in Jersey. It's only a couple hours drive down to Maryland where the old bunker used to be,
Hmm.
right? So Games Day was always there. So all of our crowd was like 3/4 of the year was preparing for Games Day and just going down there and basically unleashing that same energy that you were just talking about.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know. I don't lament those days. They were they were fine, but 40K never really resonated for me the way Warhammer Fantasy Battle did and the way AOS does. It just it's weird because I like sci-fi better overall. I tend to write like speculative fiction or like ultra reality stuff where it's like it's modern, not quite like urban fantasy or urban sci-fi, but
Oh, I
just like
got you. No. Yeah,
just
what you would call weird fiction. Yeah.
yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird
Yep.
stuff, kind of like the sort of thing like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Chuck Palahniuk, just sort of like weird shit.
Yep.
Sometimes there's some spec fic in there. Sometimes there's like some like you know uh borderline real or hyper real element that shows up depending. I don't like to explain things much.
I mean, listen, I write too, and for me, it's just a hobby. I've never considered myself uh, to have the discipline to like pursue it as a real thing. But like every other asshole who likes Age of Sigmar, I got a novel 3/4 finished that I'm promise I'm going to get to someday. Except I made that promise in 2009. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, not to not to be that guy, but just what's stopping you from finishing it? Like, is it just time? Is it
motivation,
motivation?
motivation. I learned very early that to be happy with things for myself, I had to not try to set goalposts that were
Mm.
sort of artificial. Um, and for me, that worked really, really good. So for me, honestly, like I'm very much of like a butterfly when it comes to stuff, where I'll just like flit from one thing to the next and like touch lightly on it, and then we'll leave, because we only get one life, and I
Right.
think that people who've experienced real hardship, real shit, so to speak, they can let things go and they can approach things like and not have to force it.
Well,
If it's not family and health, like what am I forcing this for? If I want to
right.
write this book, I'll write this book. Like I'm not, no one's waiting for it and holding a paycheck over my head about it. So if it brings me, if it brings me some fulfillment, I'll do it. If not, like it can sit in my computer. It's not hurting nobody.
See,
You know.
I have doing live sort of a live broadcast. I usually have this rule of going out when the energy's like right or when we've like had like a really good. We can stop the show now. That was amazing. I haven't even done the intro. That was I mean,
Well, fair enough. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I've been playing miniatures games. I started in '93
mhm.
is when I started playing minis games, and I played 40K for a long time, but like never my main game. I played AOS since it came out. I bought into AOS on release day. Not my main game, but I
what
play it. I enjoy it, and
what was the game in '93 like, if I may ask?
that was my main game.
Yeah,
Oh, Warzone, bro.
yeah.
Warzone.
Never played. Never
Oh
played it.
my God. All right. I'm gonna send you some PDFs, son,
Okay.
like when we're done.
Uh,
Because Warzone the Mutant Chronicles, it's been like 15 different
oh,
adaptations.
did
It's
they
been
make? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
a terrible movie with Ron Perlman. Yes, it
Yeah,
has.
there was a board game that they tried to sell as like sort of
Oh,
a
there was
standalone.
like 9. Yeah, yeah, the Mutant Chronicles. Yeah,
You know,
it was.
I had I got it from fucking KB
Yeah.
Toys,
Yep. Red
and and
red necromutants and a black Ezoghoul. Yeah, fucking
I
yeah. No,
yeah,
it was terrible.
it was supposed to be like, it reminded me of
Yep.
Hero Quest, so I bought into it, but
Oh
it
yeah.
had like space mutants in it, and I'm like, oh, this is
Yep.
fucking
I
sweet.
got about 10 pounds of it about 10 feet that way.
And you had the little,
Uh,
what I thought was cool about it is you had the modular board tiles, and then
yeah,
you had
yeah,
this like
yeah, yeah.
citadel at the middle.
The little tower.
I,
Yeah.
I always played the team that was like that had like they were Japan, they were Space Japan. I always played Space Japan.
Mishima.
Mishima, yeah, Mishima, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They listen, that property has been that's like the town bike, man. Everyone's had a turn on that property, and now it's like a sad old bag, like limping around the internet.
Poor- I
It
see
gets
it.
about every 4 or 5 years, someone in Europe's like, "We're gonna revive this," and they take like a swing at it, and it's just like poor Warzone is just like, "Let me die, just please stop."
I,
Stop telling Ron Perlman to finance his kids' braces by making another shitty movie about me.
oh man,
And
man.
it's been like 5 video games. I think it was like on the N-Gage, the
Yeah, it
Sega
was. There was an
N-Gage,
Engage. Yeah. There was an Engage
the
game with the
Warzone
Rifts
video
game.
game,
Yeah.
and the Rifts game. Yeah, it was just like if you have a place that's buying up sad, dying properties, like they've probably taken a swing at Warzone. But that was my game back in the day, man. It was virtually everything that we consider modern
Mhm.
in war games was in Warzone in like 93, 94. Like name a modern convention, like pre-measuring,
Mhm.
models having a certain number of actions they can do a turn, army composition not being based on points, but being based on like you have this many units, this many heroes, theme forces, special benefits for restricting army selection, using both templates and non-template attacks. Like all that was in Warzone. Like it was the granddaddy of all these modern innovations in miniatures games. You'd use D20s, so you had like a lot of attachment points to like the dice rolls were real granular. It was like, I mean, chef's kiss of a system. It was brilliant.
That's actually awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it the problem the problem was it was the greatest system I've seen in miniatures games, and it had the dog dick ugliest models. Whew, this side of like the garbage heap. It was
Well, and minis games do sell on the backs of their, like, sort of the strength of their
yeah,
minis, I feel like.
yeah.
Real quick, we do have the oil barons showing up in chat with their oil invasion, oiling up with all the gift subs here. So Ruby Rod is just going to be spamming everybody all throughout the intro here. Welcome in, chat gang. Welcome in, oil barons. I'm, of course, the magical Mr. Mephisto, the most dangerous man in Age of Sigmar. I am joined tonight by Ulf, or Ulf Paints on Twitter and in our Discord here. How's it going, bud?
How are you? Hi everyone in the chat. I don't know most of you, but awesome to see you.
And
Oil invasion sounds a little aggressive, but I'm down.
we're gonna be talking about Warhammer, obviously, minis games. I think we might sneak in a little Rifts chat, but mostly what we're gonna be talking about tonight is fighting people for real.
Fight, 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 fight.
And by that I mean SCA Battles, or what is it? Society for Anachronistic,
For
or Creative.
Society for Creative Anachronism.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Society for Creative Anachronism. So yeah. I guess Ruby Rod's gonna keep doing his thing. What is SCA? Like, what is that?
All right. So let me preface this, as a lot of people often do in sort of these kind of conversations. First of all, it's made up of people, so therefore no one person is right about what it is or wrong about what it is.
Ooh, I
Right.
like that. Yeah.
So the line we always give when explaining SCA is if you ask 50 people in SCA the same question, you're going to get 55 different answers. All right. So, grain of salt time. What I say is my experience and my personal journey with this awesome hobby. The only thing you can take 100% legit is when I talk about safety. All right. So, because this is real fighting for real, uh, safety is something I take very, very seriously. And I'm kind of like known for being a little bit of a stickler and kind of a hard ass about safety. So when I talk about safety, you can take that to the bank. Like that's what I say there is legit 100%. Everything else is my personal experience seen through the lens of what I've done, and everyone has a different take on it. So having said that, um, roughly put, SCA is like it's half medieval reenactment society and then half like combat sport. And where the slider is between those two extremes is sort of up to the person playing. So some people go into it full on. I researched what kind of buttons they wore in like 1390, and like I went and had them cast, and like I paid $1 million to have like Belgian linen flown in so I could make my arming coat out of the appropriate materials. And then some people are like, my armor's made of pickle barrel plastic and it is bright white. And I go fight my friends because fighting people is legit awesome. And both of those people are welcome. Like it's a great society and it's a great game that I've been involved in for like decades because neither of those camps really gets cut out of the fun, and it's kind of dope for that. So it speaks both to like history and people who like that, and then it speaks to sport and fighting and like that side of camaraderie because they're both legitimate ways to engage with this idea of like medievalism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's pretty cool. Like I don't think it was specifically the SCA. There are different types of like sort of this like
Hmm.
reenactment and or fighting.
Yeah.
I remember when I would do like conventions and stuff, there would be like this sort of dueling, just strictly dueling, and there that was like its own type of sort of society. Y'all are more focused on like the melees, or am I
uh
misinterpreting that?
okay, so depending on where you go, like I said, 50 Scadians, 55 answers, you can have either. Like you very well may have seen SCA people. So
Okay.
in the shorthand is Scadian, SCA, Dian, like Canadian, whatever. We're called Scadians.
Okay, I like this. This is way
Um,
easier. I'm gonna use your.
yeah.
I'm gonna use your. All right.
So like, would you see fencing when you say dueling?
Actually, it was a spear and shield versus a guy with a great sword, and he had like the actual like leather grip on the blade,
Hmm.
so he was using it kind of yeah.
Okay, but it was steel. It was like
Yeah,
molded
it
steel.
was it was steel.
Okay,
Yeah,
so not SCA then.
yeah.
You either saw something like HEMA or Battle of Nations. You saw one of the steel fighting
Okay.
communities. Were they wearing like full armor, like full on helmets and everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably saw what's called Battle of Nations, or you saw HEMA, which is historical European martial arts. There's a bunch of different
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I
versions
knew
of
there
that.
were some
Yeah.
different things. So, what
Hmm.
differentiates you Scadians from those other guys? I guess.
The type of fighting. It's like a lot of people do both.
Okay. Okay.
One of my best friends, John, he has been active in both. My buddy Mark has been active in both. Like, there's the difference is the rules of the game, right? So it's like saying, what distinguishes Kings of War from Age of Sigmar.
Mhm.
They both use little plastic deuters. They both require you to paint. You stand across the table and roll dice at each other. But the difference is in the minutia, the way that we approach it, the way it plays out. So we do both big battles, like you were saying, like melees is what we call them, and then we do singles, which is like one person versus one person getting in a list in a small space and fighting it out.
Mhm. Is when you're doing this sort of one v ones? Is there rules on like?
Mhm.
Is it like do you do okay sword v sword or can you bring your weapon of choice? Like do you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so it depends on the tournament. Typically, it's weapon of choice, generally speaking. But then there are tournaments that are have a theme.
Yeah. Who's the
Like for
best
example,
swordsman? Right. Like they want to know who the
right?
heck is the best with a long blade. Right. Like.
Yep. Like we do something where you rotate through weapon forms. So you fight like best of five with matched forms. So you would start off like sword and shield, then you go great sword, then you go polearm, then you go whatever. So there's all different ways. It's just like a miniatures game. You decide how you want to play and set the ground rules. So there's not really a very much hard and fast other than the safety component and the fact that we all have to obey the same rules when we when we fight.
See,
Um, yeah.
so I gotta ask the obvious question. Like,
Okay.
how did you get into this? Like, is it just like you
Okay.
saw people at a convention, you were walking past, you're like, man, I really want to fight someone for real, but with swords and shit, and then like you just started doing Google searches. How did you get into this?
Okay. So I'm going to shout out my original game store stomping grounds in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. So shout out to Time Warp Comics and Games. Been there for 25 plus years now. And Time Warp was the local gaming store where I went to college. It was about a mile away from the school, so we would like walk our broke asses down there to go like see if we could scrape together enough nickels to buy a couple of packs of like unlimited Magic cards.
Yep. Hope you strike it
Um,
big so you can trade it in for store credit and get something more substantial.
yeah, except at that time Magic cards weren't worth a pile of beans, and we used like a Mox Jet as a bookmark.
Oh right. Oh no, the before times.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would go down
You're
to
the
Time
reason
Warp.
we can't find the power anymore. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
No,
right.
let's not go down that rabbit hole because this is a happy place. No, so we used to play war games down at Time Warp, and one day we heard this like enormous racket out behind the store, and it sounded like someone was like attacking like a panel truck with a baseball bat, and we're like, what the hell is this? So we go outside to see what's going on. There's these dudes out there in armor, and they're just like slugging away at each other in this little parking lot that they've cleared off. They've like parked their cars to kind of make sure nobody wanders in.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made like a little pocket between like the store and the woods. And they've got a little parking lot. They got a little overhead light, and they're just like going to town. And it's loud. It's shockingly loud because you have a big aluminum shield and someone's thrashing on it. Um, so I see here SJ Arcade is asking how he gets in. Can I drop a website here real quick?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, go to SCA.org. And there'll be more information that you can shake a stick at and some dope pictures of some friends of mine. So yeah, check that out. That's a great place to start. And a little later on, I think maybe we'll get into how you can find people in your area, because there's a whole system in place for like doing exactly what Mephisto just asked about. So anyway, we're at Time Warp, and we're pushing around our little duders and plastic ass like Space Marines with no paint on them that we're playing like one squad of dudes against one squad of
As
Harlequins.
is proper for the
Yeah.
40K community. Yeah.
No, it was terrible. So we go outside and we see this, and we're just like, all right, I guess we're talking to these guys because this is dope.
Yeah.
So we got into it that way, and they were super welcoming, and we went to their practice for a couple 3-4 months, and then we started cobbling together armor, and we looked awful, and we had a great time. And then I sort of did it for a bunch of years, and then like everybody else, like every cliche in the book, I left it behind for a couple of years, took a break, and came back to it, and then dove into it like even more headfirster than the first time.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been doing it ever since. I got back into it in about 2011, so it's been about 10 years now that I've been back into it for real, so to speak.
So do you use live steel, or is it blunted like with stuff? Yeah. So look at this. We got props. Rip people listening on Spotify and iTunes. All right, here we go.
So this is so I have a couple of things sitting here. So this is a sword. It's a one-handed sword.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that it's seen some use.
Well loved. Yeah.
So this is rattan. And what rattan is if you've ever seen the I don't know if you can hear that.
I can hear it. Yeah.
If you've ever seen that really sturdy wicker lawn furniture,
mm-hmm.
the stuff that has like the curled arms that look like like thin wicker, but it's like rock hard.
Yeah.
That's this stuff.
Okay.
So rattan is a type of grass, actually. Weirdly enough, it's not wood.
Yeah. Like bamboo, right? Bamboo is a grass.
Yeah, except this is not hollow and doesn't splinter like bamboo does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an ideal fighting thing because it gets soft when it breaks. Because the last thing you want is like a splinter breaking off and winding up somewhere it shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one weapon, and then I have my baby over here that I love so much. Let me grab her. So this is
it's like almost like a tonfa, like just a classic.
It's a kanabo. It's a Japanese like short mace is what it's meant to represent, like a little baby tetsuba. And you can see this is pretty substantial. Like if you look at that, it's about
Yeah. It's
two and
got
three quarter inches thick piece of wood,
got some
and
girth to it. Yeah.
you can you can kill someone with it if you hit them without a helmet. Like it's no joke. So, not to think that these are like boffered, like soft, like safety weapons.
No, I'm
They're
sure you have. I'm sure you have melees you walk out of. You got some bruises, even like you know.
yeah.
Pardon me.
There may or may not be, but definitely is a Facebook group called the SCA Heavy Combat Bruise Wall, where people display their lovely tattoos they've collected.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned safety because like I noticed you got
Mhm.
like essentially like you have these beaten sticks, right? That represent the weapons. They do have some heft to them. They seem decently solid. What is the safety in this? Like, is it just really good armor? Is there sort of okay targeting places? Like, what's
Yeah,
the safety in this?
all that. Anything that you would expect in a sport where you could die if you are unsafe, um, we have. So we joke around a lot about like derpy fighting techniques and people getting knocked out and all this stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, safety is the most important thing because if you're gonna go out and hit your friends, last thing you want to do is really hurt them.
Right,
So
right,
uh, we have very strict rules about like you're not allowed to target below the wrist, you're not allowed to target below the ankles, anywhere where there's like small bones close to the surface, essentially.
right.
So you can't like intentionally smack someone in the hand,
Hmm.
even if like in real life that would be an ideal place to hit somebody. So
Right. Yeah.
they
There's a
couldn't use their sword anymore.
yeah.
But no, other than that, we fight and we wear armor, uh, and the whole idea is to to not get hurt. So like I actually have some stuff that I made. So like that is that's a forearm.
See, you're a I mean you're the I just put it this way. You're the prize fighter gladiator size that I would want on my team. When you held that
Yeah.
up, I thought that was a shoulder pad.
Oh well, that's the magic of force shortening too. It's like right by the camera.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a small guy. I'm like 6'5". I'm like not
Yeah.
I'm not having trouble getting seen in the group photos. I'll put it that way. But yeah, so like you would wear something like articulated like this,
Hmm.
right? So you can see that it would cover my elbow,
Hmm.
and you can still move in it like perfectly
Pretty
fluidly.
decent, pretty decent movement actually. Like kind of
Oh yeah,
impressed.
yeah. So this is part of a Japanese kit that I currently wear. Yeah, and then you don't want to go. You want to be able to paint your miniatures. So this would be an example of like a clamshell gauntlet that we would wear for fighting. And you can see again, like you were talking about being well loved.
Yeah.
This guy's taken me through
And that's not
couple of
blood there.
two,
That's
three dozen.
paint. That was paint I saw.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
paint.
that was totally yeah, that was paint, not blood.
It's actually it's I'm pretty sure it's duct tape residue. I'm pretty sure I cranked someone who was wearing red duct tape,
So,
and it just transferred.
yeah,
But yeah, so the once you've got this and you've got your you've got your stick going, there's really nowhere you can get hit that wouldn't would break anything.
yeah, yeah.
So it's actually shockingly shockingly safe, really, for how violent it is. Wonderfully violent, honestly. Um,
There's
it's
a joy. I think there's. I mean, I think it's not a mystery to anyone who's watched Rantcast for any amount of time that I'm a fan of sports. Like I actually
yeah,
like in terms of humanity, sport for the sake of sport. I think there's something like perfectly human and beautiful about it. Like a lot of these things that we used to have to do to survive that we've since still celebrate the sort of like the best of the camaraderie and all the good stuff, but not have to necessarily, you know, like the idea of like competition for competition's sake, like the Olympics, like stuff like that, which represents on one hand human achievement. I want to see paragons that are the best at whatever it is they do that. And I
yeah.
want an excuse and a way to watch that happen. So I really do enjoy sport for sport's sake, and you're combining essentially sport with, I mean, combat sports. Like it's the
Oh yeah.
sweet science, right? As boxing was once called. Um,
Well, it's this great intersection of what you're talking about of being free to pursue something that would be wildly taboo otherwise.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I cannot settle my disagreements with you when we're off camera in person by picking up a Kanabo and cranking you in the face with it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that would be frowned upon in,
Yeah. Yeah.
most
We're
circles.
civil folks now. Yeah.
However, if my buddy Haas was here and me and him were having a disagreement and we had our SCA gear, I can be like, put your helmet on. I'm gonna hit you. And if you like, you can hit me. And then afterward, we'll both feel better.
Yeah.
And we'll hug it out and we'll walk away. And it'll be great. It'll be very cathartic.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's something kind of wonderful about it. I think that it allows you to tap into something that you're just not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
That we're also constantly shown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many movies do we watch where people solve their problems with violence? Every single movie, it seems like.
Yeah.
How many situations do we hold up as kind of laudable where someone uses their fists or a weapon or a knife or a sword or a gun or something to deal with a problem that's confronting them, and like none of us can do that. That's like a
Yeah. It's I mean, most problems in our reality, unfortunately, cannot be solved with violence. And
yeah.
maybe unfortunately is doing some weird sort of heavy lifting or pushing. I'm not sure which direction it's moving.
Let's
sentence.
rephrase it. Let's rephrase it. Unfortunately, you don't have a direct solution. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I mean, life is complicated. It's nice to decomplicate things. Like, I mean, sports ball is always like, I think it's something that I can use as like a communicator for most people to like translate this to it. But like, seeing that sweet like windmill dunk on somebody's head, there's like, even in the audience, I get to like, whoa, that was so cool. It's like that, but I would imagine amplified when it's like a combat sport or when it's when you're fighting people for real, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and there's really something to it that is incredibly liberating. I'll tell you right now, my anxiety problems kind of went away when I started fighting for real, because it was like one night a week. I could take everything from the last 6 days, walk into a place, shake hands with a dude, square up, watch the fear grow in their eyes, and have a fight. Maybe win, maybe lose.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then we both get up with a couple of bruises and we laugh, we hug, and then somebody shouts again, and then we do it again.
So speaking of winning and losing, how do you determine that? Like, because you obviously have your singular, and you were talking singular, so maybe talk about that first, and then we can expand it out to like the melees. Yeah.
Sure. So essentially, it's it's weirdly like little kid rules. So you know how like you would like fight with like, I don't know, whatever your preference was. Maybe it was like sticks.
We had
maybe it was
we had sticks for a spell. We did Nerf. We had what we called Night Wars when we were growing up, and Night Wars were we had a combination of Nerf weapons and like foam bats, basically, that were our swords. And if you got hit in the arm, you lost the damn arm, and if you got in the torso, you're dead. Like
you just described the SCA targeting system. That's where I was leading you to.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a shot in the arm, you lose the arm. You take a shot in the leg, you lose the leg. You take a shot in the torso or the head, lights out.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, we did the same thing. Broom handles, and someone would cry, and then you would switch back to sticks or pool noodles.
Yeah. Yep.
And, then as you got older, it was like fluorescent tubes you found behind like the hardware store. I'm not gonna lie.
That's for my wrestling days, actually.
Yeah. Well, we all have the T-shirt with the white marks on it.
Yeah.
From the
they make
stripes.
such a great noise when you get hit with one of those.
Oh yeah.
It's speaking of safety first, it's the first rule of wrestling is be safe, basically. Like, which is
don't deliver, what are they called, bumps? Is that what you guys called it?
Taking a bump.
Bumps the other guy's not ready for.
Taking a bump is when you're the one who like hits, or I mean, different types of bumps.
Yeah.
But you're it's weird because there's like wrestling is quote unquote fake fighting, right? But we're post kayfabe era, even we would never call it fake. Because there's nothing fake about like running the ropes for 5 minutes straight.
The athleticism of it is insane.
The injury rate, I think, in wrestling is the highest in any other sport currently. Yeah. Like wrestling has the highest injury rate, and then I think it's like football, and then it's probably like MMA or something like that. Um, like you get hurt in wrestling. You don't. If it were fake, you wouldn't get constantly hurt and have people
Yeah,
blowing out their ACLs, tearing biceps. Like it's yeah. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, I remember who was the wrestler who started hooting after a while because of the TBI, like Gold Dust or one of those guys. Wasn't there someone who in like their later years got like mad TBI and had trouble speaking
well,
and was like sort of
Gold Dust did a little bit of like he got a stutter and he had like a whole like affect for a while there as part of the gimmick.
oh,
Um,
was that not real? I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I have like tangential wrestling knowledge from
no,
my
no,
friends.
that was that's what we call a work in the business.
Okay, fair enough. I just remember hearing an interview with him that was like not on a wrestling related thing, and he was like his words were catching and stuff. I wasn't sure if it was real or not, but
Yeah, he's just a goddamn professional, is what he is. Like,
well,
so,
all right, respect. I stand corrected.
like, no, he kept kayfabe in the interview, and that's the thing with like wrestling is we were talking a little bit off the air about like the sort of politics of it all. You get these old school guys that they kayfabe is real still for them. Like
Mhm.
it's all real. They're in the life 100%. They're their character every day.
Right.
Like to the point where if they're feuding with somebody in like a active storyline and they see them at like a McDonald's or something, they'll start throwing hands like in the McDonald's if they spot some like wrestling fans or something around. Like
Okay.
it's pretty intense. Yeah, it's calling
All right.
wrestling fake is just like to like basically the biggest insult. There's a reason that the whole like it's not fake. Like there's a whole thing around
Well,
that.
we
Yeah.
our thing, and I'm going to get back to your question about
Yeah,
targeting
yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
about like rules, but this is an interesting detour for me, honestly. So in our thing in SCA, there is it's like you take everything that has value in professional wrestling, and that stuff doesn't have value with us, and everything that doesn't have value in professional wrestling is kind of like what we build on.
Interesting. Can you
So,
clarify?
for example,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the performative stuff, the like playing to the crowd and like making sure that things like look legit and have a flow to them and are like
Yeah,
and
it's a dance.
entertaining
It's a dance.
and then
Yeah.
it's yeah and entertaining back and forth of it. Like nah, man, nobody gives a good goddamn about that in
Well,
SCA. Like it doesn't matter
huh.
if I walk into a tournament and I'm fighting singles, let's say so you and I are squaring off, right? And we call it singles.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you and I walk in the list, it's singles. I got my pole arm, you got your sword and shield, and we step up to each other. You know, the marshal, the ref, we call them marshals. Marshal says, you know, lay on, gives us the green light. If we fight for 5 minutes, great. No
Mm-hmm.
one's gonna say a thing. But if you walk up and throw like some lightning fast, like grass cutter wrap or some other like sweet technique and blow me up in like before I've had a chance to throw,
Mm-hmm.
everyone will applaud the same amount. They
Yeah.
don't feel cheated because it's over.
Interesting.
You
Yeah.
know, as opposed to like in a wrestling match, if like two wrestlers and like I apologize for my cringy lack of wrestling knowledge,
No, no,
so
it's fine. It's
just
fine.
bear
It's
with
fine.
me.
No, 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 that's fine.
You know, my knowledge is from when I used to run a game store and my the owners were obsessed with wrestling, so I like
Your
so
wrestling knowledge is probably about the same as my audience, by the way. Like, there's like
okay,
a
fair
few
enough, great.
really hardcore like wrestling heads in
All right,
chat gang, but I would wager that 90% of chat gang knows
okay,
about as much as you as wrestling, so it's fine.
fantastic.
You're
So
speaking
my
their language right now. It's fine.
all
I'm
right,
the
so
I'm the odd man out here in this
all
conversation. So
right. So if you go up and you want to watch like two people fight and you're like, you know, it's like the I don't know, The Rock in his prime against like, I don't know, Eugene,
mm,
you know, and somehow Eugene manages to land like something that like actually hurts, you know, Dwayne Johnson,
hmm
and the fight's over in 10 seconds.
hmm
Like no one's going to be satisfied by that. That's not what they're there for. That's not what the conflict is.
yeah.
It's not a how to put this without using the word fake because I'm trying to respect the
Wrestling
respect
is
your culture.
storytelling. Is like
Yeah,
at it's theatrics. It is spectacle. It is a
yeah,
soap opera. It is a soap opera for people who never grew out of middle school, like
sure.
insensibilities of schlock and you know. Uh, I don't like saying that it's like a soap opera for men because I don't like gendering it like that. There's
Right.
tons and tons of people who love wrestling and you know, but that was the way that it used to be sort of billed or pitched to me when I was training, and
Yeah.
it was like, this is a soap opera for men. It's drama, it's theater, it's all that stuff. And me, of course, who actually was in drama and theater, and who also was in like fucking martial arts classes and stuff like that. Like for me, it just clicked. It was just like, yeah, of course, this is I finally get to apply my weird amount of knowledge of like Bruce Lee choreography and like with Hillbilly Weddin, the the play production that I won a acting award for. Like,
No, and it's all that stuff plays out because that's what people are there for.
mm-hmm.
And in our thing, that's like sometimes the last thing people want to see.
Yeah.
Is they want to see like a display of fighting skill that takes none of that into account.
Yeah.
Like if I walk into a list and my crew is depending on me to get a win, and homeboy across from me starts monologuing, I'm gonna blast him in the middle of his monologue. Like I don't care.
Amazing.
That's just like that's sorry, dude. That's the opening you left me. The marshal said lay on, bro. Like it's
I love that. Well, you
like
said
okay.
you keep using this term, the list, like that.
Okay, so yeah, the list is the ring.
Right on.
Okay, so it's usually a 10 by 10 square that's like roped off generally, and you step into the list. Sorry, that's
No, it's
my
fine. Keep using the jargon. We just got to explain it for folks. That's all.
Sure. So when we step in the ring in the list, that's the performative aspect of it, the whole pageantry of it does exist, just not while you're fighting, generally speaking.
Just from the videos I saw, like it's not pretty, by the way. Wrestling has like a like there's I shouldn't like there's like what like a hard style. There's like a particular type of wrestling that's supposed to look brutal and it's.
You tell me this isn't pretty? What do you
I mean, that's gorgeous. It is the Menuroi or whatever.
I put so much work into that. What do you mean pretty?
You made this too. Like you made this armor.
I did. Well, I didn't make the helmet. The helmet was made by this guy Eric, but yeah, all the dressing on it I did. But I'll bust that out later. I just come on, man. You can't say it's not pretty. It's delightful.
I meant the actual. Yeah. No, like I mean, just these like wailing and these. It's talking about like choreography and stuff like that. Like it's the difference between wrestling and what you do is the difference between sort of the original Star Wars trilogy and the prequels. The prequels is a lot of flash and swinging the swords around and not really trying to hit each other, swinging at each other's sticks. And the original Star Wars choreography is like sort of classic kendo. Like if you look at like that fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, like I know it's two old men swinging sticks at each other, but every shot is a kill shot. They're actually like every one of them, they're actually like going to hit each other, and there's a simplicity to that and a realism to that the later films lost. Don't get me. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. Is like if you look at like certain Bruce Lee choreography, before his talk with Chuck Norris that kind of like realigned how he thought of like fight choreography. His original fight choreography is very minimalist, very straightforward. He incorporates in the like all the like pageantry. He wouldn't throw a kick above the knee in like a lot of his original like choreography. If you go back and you watch it, like kicks aren't for like kicks above the knee or kicks above the thigh. They're useless.
Right, they're for tournament points.
Yeah, they're useless in a real fight. So his original choreography wouldn't incorporate them. They just wouldn't be there. And basically, he talked to Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris like kind of like, well, yeah, but you're not, you're fighting for the camera and the audience.
Fight,
and,
yeah.
So like, but I'm talking about like that difference in the choreography. There, wrestling really does care about the kicks above the waist and the like, ooh, like that.
Yeah.
So that's right.
And it's a partnership. And also, I'm seeing someone in chat mentioning they made Brigandine for SCA. So. Good man. But yeah, back to the idea of wrestling as an analog to provide a point of reference for what we do.
Yeah.
There is no partnership in SCA between you and the person across from you.
That's No, that's a perfect way of describing one of the major differences. I mean, the first two rules of wrestling is you make your opponent look good. Second one is you make the match look good. And the third one is if you've been doing 1 and 2, you don't need to worry about making yourself look good.
Right.
Like,
And in SCA, it really depends on where you are, because in with wrestling, that's the goal. The goal is entertainment. The goal is showmanship. The goal is for everyone to be involved together in this group experience. To some extent, more or less. Obviously, the crowd is the least involved.
no way in hell. Crowd is so involved in wrestling. It's the
Right.
opposite. Yeah, go ahead.
But you know what I'm saying? Like they're not in the ring. They're not. If all goes right, I guess they're not in the ring.
They're in here.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I didn't realize we were going there.
No, we're about to fight each other for real with weapons here. You keep you keep shooting on wrestling. No, no, I'm
Put
kidding.
your helmet on.
Kidding. No, go on. I didn't mean to.
But yeah, but the idea being that if you're in singles, the idea is for you to beat the other guy, to use technique
Right.
and superior fighting skill and training, and you get a win.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be in a double elimination tournament where you have to lose twice to be out. You might be in a round robin tournament where you got to fight every other mofo like in the joint. You might be in a bear pit where that's like an old school Street Fighter where a guy keeps his quarter on the machine as long as he keeps winning. And then you fight 8 guys in a row, and you see after fighting 8 guys, can you fight a 9th guy? Okay, that guy beat you. Can he fight 8 guys? So there's all these different formats that you can fight in, and the conditions are always different, and that's sort of singles. That's the world of singles. You set like a tournament pack basically for an AOS equivalent, and then you have melees. And melees, like, let's all take a moment and thank whatever power we believe in that exists somewhere else in a higher realm.
Yeah.
That someone thought up the idea of SCA melees. Thank you.
Oh, and this is going to be the thing that's I think got the most parallel to Warhammer.
Oh yeah.
Actually, so melees. Why don't you go ahead and take us through, or take me through what a melee is? I've seen some videos. I get the gist, but like I need explain it to me with paint me a picture with your words, wordsmith.
Okay. So melees, SCA melees are the most fun it's possible for a human to have while they are still wearing pants. Like that is the way to describe melees. They are the best. A melee is a unit engagement, right? So it's my unit plus whatever other guys we have. Might be other units, might be single guys. Like
there's
together.
Mercenaries, I hear too. Like you can actually
there are mercenaries. Yep.
Get, like mercenaries and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, there's this is where the pageantry comes in. This is where the teaming up and the schoolyard politics of the choosing the kickball team and all that junk kind of rears its ugly head, and sometimes very pretty head depending on what side you're on. But a melee is essentially it's a number of guys more than one fighting another number of guys more than one. So as soon as you get 2v2, it's a melee, and it can be me and my 4 guys, 5 on 5. It can be 30 guys against 30 guys. It can be 1,600 guys against 1,600 guys. And these are not exaggerated numbers. Like, I fought in all of these. There's a big event once a year. It hasn't happened because of COVID, but it exists out in PA, kind of near me, where the average attendance is like 8,000 to 12,000 people. Lasts for 2 weeks. And it is such a large event that it technically has to be zoned as a city. So it needs a mayor and like a governing body for the 2 weeks that it exists. And it is beautiful. It's amazing. So melees, it's a lot like paintball. Paintball is a really great analogy for it.
Well, real quick before you move on, so the mayor and stuff like that, is it somebody from within the SCA? Like, do you have like a Ren fair where you actually have like the queen, the king, and the queen of the Renaissance fair? Like, is there like does the pageantry extend to whoever the mayor is? Like, or
yes and no. Okay, so the pageantry does extend to having kings and queens. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Those people are not the mayor of Pennsic. The mayor of Pennsic is usually, well, they're in charge of Pennsic. They make decisions for all the groups. We'll get into that in a minute. So here, hang on. Someone's asking a question about number of teams, and I wish to answer that. Oh, who is this? Kernigget.
That's Noops.
Yep, just asked if there's ever more than 2 teams. Hell yes. We can share some links. Maybe if Mephisto would be kind enough to share some of those video links that I shared with him earlier. You will fight sometimes in engagements where there will be 30 units on one side and 20 units on the other side. And you basically form a battle line just like you would in Age of Sigmar. This unit is good as at X, it gets tasked with this role. This unit is good as at Y, it gets tasked with this other role. And it's a whole battlefield command structure. So you might fight alongside, 10 other dudes, 10 other units rather, not dudes, but, big groups of people. Absolutely. In like a giant fight. So the idea is that paintball is a really good, there's my banner. Nice, represent. So, so we, you have paintball style scenarios. So some might be like, like if anyone's ever played paintball, you might have like capture the flag, or hold this base, or eliminate the other guy, or wounded pilot, that kind of stuff. Like you might have all these different scenarios. So SCA is no different. You would have like take this bridge, or breach this castle wall, or take this field, or defend this point in the woods. And then you have an attacker and a defender, or whatever. And then you have a side commander who would decide how to approach the battle, and then you execute a battle plan. And that's actually where my heart is in SCA, is in melee command, is in battlefield fighting and command. It's awesome.
I can't have my cake and eat it too here with this, so I'm gonna have to.
That's all right.
Do it a little different.
I mean, that's what show notes are for, right?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, Barry's video, nice. Shout out to Barry for shooting that sweet video, putting that together.
Here, I can mute the audio. I can pull that up though. Here, I've got an extra monitor button just for this. Let's see, which one are we gonna get? Properties. Hey, grab the right one. All right, so we'll go ahead and turn this on. And I can put this over me because I'm the least important person in the frame right now. And audio muted, so I'm going to go ahead and play one of these melees here. This has some really bumpin' music to it. I can't play it because of the TOS here.
All right, so yeah, let me...
So I've noticed you've got archers too. How effective are they in these melees? Like, because I feel
God,
like it's
so effective.
Someone like think like
you want to talk about archers? Have you seen the siege weapons? Have you seen the ballistas and the trebuchets? Because those exist. All right, so yeah, if you don't mind stopping it here, pausing it for a sec. Well, not yeah, okay. So you can see how large the groups are. So here's a battle that's already in progress. This is like a line that's already skirmishing. But if you go back a little bit, before we saw that dude with the pig face, back.
Here,
the wide shot where people are walking down a field together.
Back still.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Yeah, so right there, perfect. Oh no, too far.
Yeah, you're on a 27-second delay. Here we go. There's the wide shot.
I'm sorry. There we go. Yeah. So you can see here where people are marching, and you can see clumps of guys. You can see off at the right, there's someone wearing like white armor, and you can see behind him there's like a crew of people, and then in front of him there's another big group. There's your your AOS 1-inch coherency rule in effect right there. You can see them; they're clumped up just like AOS models, and the guys in front are typically the unit commanders. So you've got like character dude, like hero model in front, and then his dudes behind him back him up.
I saw the hero. I saw the unit champion here a little bit ago with the pig suit. Like, clearly this guy has one extra attack and hits on 2s and 3s instead of 2s and 3s.
Well, that's the 2 chucks. Let's not go crazy. They hit on 4s. I know those guys. They are dripping with swag and enthusiasm, not so much the organization. And I'm going to get shit for saying that. Actually, I'm just busting chops. 2 chucks. I love you guys. You're all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, in these videos, you can see the number of people, and there, you can see like the movement of troops around. So yeah, like Mephisto was saying, it's pretty brutal when you zoom in and see the actual hits being taken.
Oh yeah, like they're just wailing on each other here.
Yeah, guys getting run down, pulse charging. You can see units moving past each other. Someone's asking if they have siege weapons. Hell yeah, we have siege weapons. You fight with them. They have trebuchets that launch rocks, which are pyramids of
Beanbags.
tennis. No, they're much worse than beanbags.
Oh.
They're pyramids of tennis balls that have been stacked into a pyramid shape and then duct taped tightly together. So a enormous D4 that weighs about 4 pounds comes hurtling through the air at you. It is no joke getting hit with one of those.
Look at these, just like
There's
this
sorry.
this charge that just happened, like literally just, and you watch the lines kind of collapse into each other, and then just.
Yes,
So,
so good. Most fun you can have with pants on. Look at these guys. So shield charging, what's called a pulse charge, is actually what our unit is kind of known for. So
right
as you
here,
can see, actually,
right here, like,
yeah. This is a mix of this event in this event in PA, and then there's some shots from events out west in there too. But yeah, that's a pretty good example of what melees look like. They're huge engagements by hundreds of people.
I'm just gonna let this video play in the background while you keep talking.
Sure.
So, so people get an idea.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you're all just like a bunch of nerds, like the biggest nerds on the planet, basically.
I mean, you know, listen. I mean, are you calling me Black Kettle?
Touche.
Because one of us has a monthly show, and one of us does not. So.
Weekly, thank you. Weekly.
Okay,
It's a weekly
right,
show.
Weekly.
Come on now.
All right.
I think this is like interesting. Like the I saw a crossbow in there earlier. Like there's actually like archery. Like,
oh yeah, combat archers are not to be messed with. They're terrifying.
So Sentinel's OP in SCA as well, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And everybody who's ever argued with me that in AOS you can't shoot at a unit you're engaged with, j'accuse, you liars, because you've never been on the receiving end. I'm a tall dude. I'm over 6'5", so I stick out. I wear a brightly colored helmet with a red face. So guess who motherfuckers be targeting with arrows when we stand in a line? It's me, who stands above everyone, doesn't fight with a shield because I have a Japanese persona, so no shields for me because that's a peasant's weapon. And my persona is Bushi. So yeah, I'm standing there with a pole arm that's about that wide, and this is where everyone else is. Everyone else's helmets end about here. So I've had my face rocked with arrows more times than I'm prepared to admit.
I gotta ask the question. Feel free to lie about it. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. How good is your unit? And
okay, how good is my unit? So can we? All right, I'll flex a little bit on my unit, and then we'll no pun intended. That sounded dirty, flexing on my unit, but
yeah.
I'll talk a little bit of trash, and then I'll explain what units actually look like.
Units, and maybe like the organization a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah,
okay.
Oh, for sure. So my unit is the 404. That's the name of it. Also called the CDIV, which is the Roman numerals. This right here, I decided to hang my fighting uniform back here, my tabard. So we're black and green, and our symbol's the Hydra. So that's our unit badge. So no other unit can fly those colors in that combination with that symbol. That's us. That's ours. So if you see someone wearing this, it's part of our crew. We can find each other on the battlefield. Yes, Koenig 404, unit not found. Actually, what it is we can't find our fucks to give about politics and problems. So we are. The joke is that we're the 404, fucks not found, because the SCA, like any group of people, is full of politics and nonsense from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just like every group of people has people in it that make it awesome, and then people in it that make it a constant chore. We don't care about the people who make it a constant chore. We leave them alone. We walk away. We do our fighting thing, and we have no fucks to give. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
I'm all out. The fuck wallet is empty. So that allows us to have fun and have a good time. Yes, I'm also Alfarius, by the way, just so we're clear. And someone else is asking, can we define what good and bad for unit is in this? Yeah, absolutely. What's good and bad for a unit in this depends on what you're looking to get out of it. if you are looking to build a badass group of like pipe hitting like killers, and you want to go out and like rack up wins, then what's good for a unit is having a bunch of knights in it, having a bunch of people who've been elevated, and there's different ranks that you can go through, like belts in martial arts, um, and winning a bunch of tournaments and going and like presenting yourself well and wrecking house at like big events. So if you want to get a win record, that's what being good is. Other units, they want to present themselves in as realistic a manner as possible. So there's entire groups who go 100% legit. They would look at this and go, well, that's aluminum. That's not high carbon steel, and those are modern rivets. So poo poo to you, sir. Is that a hockey glove? That's not 8 layers of linen sewn in with like sheep's hair. Like, and they will like spurn this because to them, this is a functional piece of sport armor, and they want to be head to toe legit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, if you guys have seen Tropic Thunder, right? Obviously, the greatest comedy in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So you remember when Lincoln Osiris says, "I got no cell phone. I'm head to toe legit."
Mm-hmm.
You know, he does that whole spiel.
Mm-hmm.
There's people for whom that is the benchmark. Mm-hmm. So for them, being good is living up to that and getting as close to that mark as they can. For us, being good as a unit is everybody had a good time, everybody came home safe, and we gave as good as we got. You know, we came heavy, we threw hard, and everybody left at the end of the day smiling.
So to use a wrestler as an example, you're the Eddie Kingston of wrestling. I know you don't know who that is, but
sure,
three people
guy.
know who that is. 3 people know.
Good old EK.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we're in the East Kingdom, so EK fits.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston. No, his whole thing is like I'm gonna go up and beat him up. Like he was on the indie circuit for a long time. He just, because of COVID, broke into mainstream wrestling essentially because there just wasn't any wrestling, and so he got out. He got booked for this Jersey show of all things, outdoors where the cars were allowed to the cars were parked around the ring and they were like socially distanced, and he just started running smack on all of the like main promoters, and AEW actually like picked him up. They're like, all right, come in and wrestle. And as a single, like, just wrestling, he turned a single, just like show up, wrestle, like here's your check, here's your payday. Twitter started trending hire Eddie, and he got a job out of it. But his whole thing was like, he's like, I'm gonna beat him up, and they're like, he'd ask like after the match, like, did I fight him good? And they go, you beat the hell out of him, and that was it. That was his standard for matches, is like if he beats him up.
Sure.
And that was it. And it's so he's got an excellent article in the I think it's the Players Tribune that do all these stories about his battles with depression and substance abuse, and just sort of like his story was, okay, I got to do a wrestling show. Ignore this. I'm gonna do a wrestling show sometime.
Well, it's a scary parallel to SCA because a lot of the same personality types are drawn to this. Like, you talk about battles with depression and substance abuse. I mean, you can't show me an SCA group that doesn't have like 3 or 4 dudes in it dealing with the same problems and using fighting as a way to manage.
Well, yeah, Eddie Kingston's whole thing is like, I was only happy when I was wrestling. He's like, that was the only time that like it was quiet in my head.
I've heard that so many times from fighters. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
You know what? Because you could be. I'd rather you take a stick to my dome while I'm wearing a helmet than you go home and hit your wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for real. Like, if you need me to come out on a Thursday night and be your punching bag so that like you get a little bit of peace and respite, like, God bless, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'll eat the bruises and go home happy, and it's wonderful, like, honestly. And I mean, I know we're getting a little bit of a tangent, but I'm trying to keep track of like the flow chart of what I'm supposed to get back to, because we still haven't talked about unit combat. But
right.
So yeah, to answer the question, that's what makes things good or bad. Kicker 7 or K7.
Yeah, it's Kicker.
It's
Kicker. That's
Kicker,
Travis.
sure.
Yeah, Kicker.
What up, Travis? So that's what makes something good or bad is what you want to get out of it. So like our unit, you were asking like, how do I feel about our unit? Like, I bleed black and green. Like, I love the unit. I'm the kind of person who doesn't commit to things easily, but when I do, I commit like for real. And we have some real like stone killers in our unit. We have guys who are considered extremely gifted. One of our guys actually just won like the most prestigious tournament there is in our kingdom. So he just defeated like everyone else who wanted to take the top spot and is going to be the king for the next reign. And I'll explain that in a minute what that means, because I can see the look.
No, it's fine. I
um,
took my note. I'm
yeah. So the unit that we're part of, the 404, we're kind of known as like a kind of don't have time for anyone's nonsense. We just come here to like have a good time and like the camaraderie of it. Um, we have very little ego when we get on the field. We don't have to get the best assignments. We don't have to be the honor guard for anyone. We don't have to be any of that. Like you give us like a shit assignment, we'll sing at it. We'll do great with it. Because we're just happy to be there. Honestly, we try to be very hard to be humble, and we're known for our pulse charges. So we fight. Our unofficial our unofficial motto is moo. So it's moo this and moo that, because that's how we fight, like a stampede. So we're just out here mooing. Can mean anything from like me and my friends are gonna go drink to like, yo, we just ran down like 50 guys, like literally like bowled them over.
yeah.
Um, we have a shield line of all guys who are over 300 pounds out of armor. So when we charge, our shield line is, I don't know,
It's a wall. It's a
two,
moving wall. Like
2.5 tons. It's like, because we can field 5,000 pounds of like, beef in the front line, all with tower shields. So we're all shields that are taller than this tabard.
yeah.
4 foot high like road signs repurposed as shields, like painted with our symbol. And the rule in SCA is you're only allowed to hit someone as hard as you're able to. You can't gain mechanical advantage, but if you can swing a stick hard, then swing it as hard as you want. Like, go crazy. And so we're known for going in with that approach. So like big melee, we get put up against, let's say, a bunch of dudes who form a spear wall, who form a porcupine, right? So it'd be 30 guys with spears, and it's just a wall of this. It's
Yep.
just
Yep.
it's Lumineth Realm Lords. It's whatever those guys.
Yeah, the overhang has to be insane when you're charging up the field against them.
Yeah.
Like it's just
So those guys, if you're going to run up in ones and twos, you're going to get murked. Like there's nothing you can do about it. The dude with a 9-foot spear, and you've got you're working with this.
yeah.
There's a pretty big range discrepancy there. So what we do, we just run them over. just accept the fact that me and 8 other giant dudes are going to get killed. But you just run up the spears and crash into them, bowl them over, and then guys behind us do the actual killing. So that's kind of a thing that we do. We're like kind of known for breaking
lines.
Breaking
You're like a line breaker. Like you like
we do real good in bridge battles where you're not allowed to go sideways, where you have hay bales that are 8 feet apart and there's a big bowling alley where you're only allowed to fight.
Kernigget says real life ogres. Like
yeah, I mean, one of the guys in our unit, his nickname is Ogre. Yeah.
Amazing. This just meat mountain coming at everybody. And what a fantastic visual.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. We fought a bunch of dudes. How many years ago? Was it like 5 years ago? 4 years ago? We fought a bunch of dudes on a bridge, and they were not ready. They flew over from Australia to fight, and they had not encountered us before. So we're in a bridge fight, and they're turtling up, and they have like a hoplite theme. So they have the round shields with the pointy crests on their helmets. I don't know if it's Greek or hoplite or one of those. They're dressed like the extras from 300.
Excellent. Yeah.
And
they cordially invite you to Ab City, and you show them the mountain. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So they form up, and they got their shields up. They're all underneath it. They form their little phalanx, and they're like, "We're gonna hold this bridge." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you have a red plume that's showing me where your head is, right over the top of your shield. It's like a WoW character being like, hit me right here."
Yeah.
So we just ran them over. We just ran onto the top of their shields and just threw down over them, and just basically they were like like a what are those things that the things that stop a train, the derailers, and we just like ran over the top of them, and then we fell down and died. But you know, we made an opening for the rest of our guys, and then they were able to take the bridge. So, and that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, man. You can't. Where else in life are you going to be able to use the phrase? And then I ran over the shield wall, and we all
And we
died.
all died. Yeah. It's the
You know,
list. It's two things. It's Dungeons and Dragons, recounting stories from your tabletop RPG, and then
yeah.
doing it for real in reality, right? Like,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Impact hits are so much better when it's not like, oh, my guy makes an impact hit.
And you roll like a
As a-
d6, and like,
yeah, as opposed to me like putting you into the air because I hit you with a shield. It's great.
you get a lot of glee from this. Like, I'm just you're
Oh,
gushing when you're talking about this. Is pretty fantastic.
it's you can't do it, I think, for long, unless you love it, unless there's something in it besides the fighting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm putting my health in danger with this.
Right.
I'm like every nerd on earth. I'm a middle-aged white guy with a beard. Like I'm no different than anybody else. But I'll put on this armor and I'll go in there against people 20 years younger than me with more left in their knees, and I could get hurt at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to love it. There's got to be something that keeps you there, because otherwise, like, it's like a losing proposition, man. Like,
Yeah. No, I get it.
you know,
So we talked a little bit about units, a little bit about melees. Melees, how do you? Is there like you said marshals? Are the marshals like watching to make sure
Mhm.
people are keeping it honest when like they get hit and anything like
Yeah,
that, or you're just okay?
it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of marshals. So marshals are. I should explain how killing someone works. I should explain that, I think.
Because
So
these
in
melees look chaotic, like
oh,
chaotic.
they're
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, they're way less chaotic than they look, actually, believe it or not. Um, they're chaotic for the guy in the front lines doing the swinging.
Mm-hmm.
But at the back of the line, if you're the command and you're up on a hill, you can actually, it's a lot like Age of Sigmar, actually. You can really see the units, like, in fantasy was the weaponized geometry, was my rectangle gets smaller and beats up your rectangle,
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
old rank and flank days.
Right.
You can see that, actually. Like, that happens. How do people not die doing this? Hey, it's because we wear this stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty great. But anyway, yeah. So the way that you kill someone is, we call it like a telling blow. We call it a good hit. Good being in air quotes. So the idea is, I hit you, and if it's light, you can shrug it off. And if it's good, meaning it was a solid enough hit that you felt it and you felt like there was sufficient force on it that if you were not wearing armor, it would kill you. Then you take the hit and you walk out. So it's like 80% honor system and 20% marshals, because a marshal can't tell you how hard you were hit.
Right.
Marshals are mostly there for like targeting questions, like, for example, there might be a rule that arrows don't kill you unless they go in your face. Like body shots with a bow don't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
The conceit being, these aren't like English longbows. These are like shitty bows that won't get through your plate, but they'll go through the slits in your helmet. So the rule would be like, oh, a face shot with an arrow kills you. So you're fighting and you might get hit up here where you can't see it. You might not feel it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So Marshall would come up and be like, yo, bro, you got tagged with an arrow.
Yeah.
Walk out. But generally speaking, it's honor system. You're expected to behave chivalrously. You're expected to act like a knight. We're all here with this conceit of we are knights and men of honor and women of honor, and we are expected to conduct ourselves as such. And that includes taking your hits. Don't be a bitch. Don't cheat.
Kurt Niggett, if someone is cheating, do you beat the honor system into them?
Yes, we actually have a term for it. It's called percussive maintenance. So the scariest phrase that you can hear at an SCA practice is this: okay. Like if I tag you and you go light and I go okay, like that means turn the aggression dial up, and let's see. Like at what point I invite you now to explain to me, how hard do I have to hit you before you will find your honor. Like, it's up to you. You get to decide. Is this enough for you to remember? Okay. And if I'm a good enough fighter, how about I hit you in the armpit? You can't armor that spot. That's a legal target area. So you get someone who's like, like a sniper with their shots, and some of these guys are good enough to do that. Like,
Yeah.
they'll come around, they'll throw a fake, you raise your arm, and then they will
Wham. Yeah.
get you right in the soft tissue, and then you'll remember, and they'll be like, "Was that light? Go ahead, tell me that was light." We'll do it again.
So there is sort of like the honor, you do sort of beat the honor into them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm saying it for comedic effect because it's like fun to talk about and it's like silly and it demonstrates the nonsense. But honestly, it really doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the idea that it's like full of cheaters and you have to like ratchet up the intensity to like,
AOS is
it's really
similar.
not.
AOS is similar. Like everyone has this fear when they get into Age of Sigmar that it's just if they go to a tournament, it's just gonna be a bunch of like angle shooting, like douchebags playing loose and fast and loose with the rules. It really doesn't happen because I find with passion projects, the something that like the reward is essentially like it's the esoteric already. Like you're cheapening your own reward by cheating. You're all,
Absolutely.
even if you cheat at the table, maybe you win a game, but there's always going to be that voice in your head that says you didn't earn that, right?
And you never learn. You never get better.
Yeah.
Cheaters, that's a crutch you can't set down once you decide to start walking on it.
Yeah.
We call it rhino hiding. That's our term for it. It's not angle shooting because we're like a rhino. Like my hide is so thick, nothing can hurt me.
I get it. Yeah,
Right?
that's funny.
So we call it rhino hiding. So if you rhino like your way through bouts, guess who never learns to become a better fighter? Like if you don't learn to block, you don't learn to counter throw, you don't learn to protect your offside, you don't learn to control an opponent's weapon, you don't learn how to negate a shield. You don't learn any of these techniques because all you're relying on is your invisible made up force field.
Mm-hmm.
Your like douche field that you're carrying around. Where you're just like, it's like little kids playing cops and robbers, like, I got you. No, you didn't. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
You're like, bro, I got you. Nuh-uh, you didn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I can't prove that I did because we don't have instant replay in my backyard, but okay.
Yeah.
And it just like sucks the fun. It sucks the air out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same in SCA, except I'm then allowed to be like, all right, let's do it again. Let's see that again. And then they do it again. Then you're like, all right, let's see it again. And you keep doing it. And at some point, there's only so many hits someone wants to take where they are faking that it doesn't land right. And eventually it goes from being like light to being like, light. And then you're like, was it light? Because
they're like staggering. They're like, ugh.
Yeah, you kind of hit the wall and made a sound only dogs can hear. So I don't know if that was light, bro.
So I have a question regarding safety. Like you get hit, you walk out. What happens if someone falls? Because like trampling feels like it could be a thing.
Okay, like they fall unintentionally, or they fall because they got killed.
Do you fall because you got killed? Like, is that part of it? Okay.
Yeah,
so you do.
Dying defensively is what it's called. There's a whole thing you have to authorize in it. There's all these safety protocols. Like, you must like die in a certain way.
Interesting.
So yeah, you get trained in how to do it. So just like you might get trained how to land on an announcer's table in wrestling. You get trained you get trained in how to fall out of a combat or fall into a combat. So there's certain things first of all, you go into as much of a fetal position as you can manage to minimize your surface area.
Mm-hmm.
You get something under your helmet. For the love of God, put something under your lid. Okay, because you can't lay your head down in a helmet. You just don't have the range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is if you lay down, you're like, if the wall is here, like if this Rifts book is the floor.
Oh, Ultimate Edition, I see. Connoisseur.
I'm landing like this, and here's the ground, and there's this gap right here.
Yeah.
So you want to have something there.
Yeah.
Because you will not survive if you do this and someone steps on your head. Right, that's bad news.
Right.
So you get trained, like, get something under your head. If you have an open hand, like, put it in your armpit, get it into an armored position. Don't cross your ankles. Because if someone steps on your feet, they'll only break one ankle, not both. Yeah. So it's all these little things, like similar, I'm sure, to wrestling, like how you have to.
It's actually in wrestling, it's kind of the opposite. When you fall, you want to sort of maximize your surface area that hits so that it distributes the blow. Yeah. And tuck your chin is the
Yep, and then hope to God the action moves off you. But
okay.
I've been at the bottom. I've been at the bottom of Stack of Bodies once or twice.
That's gotta
Like
be
we've
terrifying.
got. It's not that bad, honestly. It's not that bad because number one, it's quick. You
Okay.
you don't spend a lot of time there. You spend like a minute there maybe. Number two, you've got armor on,
See, I
so
would
you're not.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You're good.
Oh, I'm one of those people. If my feet get tangled in the blanket, I start to freak out in bed, man. Like like, I'm like fucking get the fuck off me,
Okay.
blanket.
Well, then having 1,000 pounds of dude land on you with like a tangle of limbs and weapons probably not
I
ideal
mean,
for you.
when you say it that way, it sounds kind of hot though. Like a fucking tangle of limbs and weapons. Like, oh yeah, no,
But no, but you land and then people will fall on you. It's just is going to happen.
right.
You know, if everything's going right, people are going to be dying. And you know, like you turtle up. You're like the way the helmets are designed. You're always able to breathe because nothing can constrict your airway because you have a metal gorget on. You're wearing something around your neck. So even if someone like lands with their elbow on you, they're not going to constrict your airway. Your chest armor will help keep you breathing. You know, your hands aren't going to get stepped on. You're actually pretty safe. It's uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but that's about it. And
Huh.
then the line of battle will one side or the other is obviously dying if dudes are landing on you, so they'll move away soon. And then the marshals will call something called dead out. They'll go dead out, and then you get up and walk off. You put your weapon over your head to indicate like I'm dead. This is the symbol for
Yeah.
don't shoot me, bro. I'm on my way back to
Yeah.
the respawn point.
Hand on head is a pretty universal symbol in a lot of
Yeah,
different things, actually. So yeah, interesting. Um,
yeah.
um, reminds me of LARP when you obfuscate in Vampire the Masquerade, you cross your arms. Fucking can't see me, nerds.
Uh, so you want to do a real quick tangent that'll tickle you?
Yes, I'd love to. After
Okay.
we answer, we get this kicker just adds a little bit to the falling. It's kind of like how you get trained in rugby to get tackled in rugby. Like in rugby, you're
Yep.
actually also trained to like get tackled.
Oh, absolutely.
I
There's a
think
lot of crossover.
I think the NFL needs to adopt rugby tackling practices. I think that'll go huge in their current problem with all these concussions and stuff. It's just yeah. Sorry. Like
I'm gonna bite back on my comment that they'll never allow it because it's like European and socialist and America. Get out of
yeah,
the sport.
well,
Yeah.
if they want to maintain the sport going forward, when as Pee Wee in college starts drying up because parents and people who want futures don't think it's safe anymore, they're going to need to reassess it anyway. So better sooner than
They
later.
they should come to us because our helmet technology is superior to theirs.
Oh, shots fired! NFL, suck it. You heard it here on Rantcast
It's
first.
true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's it's really true. Our helmet technology is superior. We are designing a game to hit each other in the head as hard as possible.
Hmm.
And you hear of almost no TBIs, no concussions, no nothing because we've had to develop the technology because our game is centered around me blasting you in the face as hard as I can,
Right.
and that's pretty hard. So, they could really take a lesson from our book. I mean, I've been doing this for
I think
years,
so
and
too.
I can think of one person who suffered a serious injury, and it was because they weren't wearing sufficient armor, and it wasn't a head injury.
Hmm. Hmm.
And most of the rest of it is like, I'm a fat guy and I ran too fast and I tore my ACL. You know, it's that kind of shit. There's a lot of rolled ankles.
Yeah, there's some wear and tear type stuff, right? That's
Yeah,
going to happen with
absolutely, tons of it.
any physical activity, but not like like sort of like a transferred injury, right?
Yeah,
Like
you get hurt a lot. You don't get injured a lot. I'll put it that way.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah,
You know,
NFL helmets are designed to be weapons. Change my mind. Well,
yeah,
their afterthoughts, the all of the
yeah.
NFL stuff, it's like they end up putting you in armor as an afterthought, like they and the because they've always been taught to hit the same way, and now they're like, oh, but now you're invincible with this armor on, but the armor wasn't really designed to be used that way, except for the shoulder pads,
Yeah.
essentially, and that's about it. Like,
Well, a part of that is because that stuff developed over time. It like accreted kind of like a coral reef.
yep,
Like
yeah, yep,
little layers over time got deposited. Our thing was designed from the ground up.
right,
There was a little awkward period at the start of it when it started in the late 60s. And then after that, people got together and were like, yo, I don't like how Tommy is constantly complaining that things taste like pennies and he's constantly drooling after he took that hit. So maybe we should look at these helmets, yo.
Yeah.
And so we started developing, proper methods of protection.
Yeah.
And yeah, like
Yeah.
the hits are real. I've now lost the thread of what we're talking about because
Well,
safety is like the thing I got into.
yeah, safety is your main passion. We were talking about this. I'm usually really good at resetting these tangent trains, but you were talking about the fetal position and that kind
Oh
of
right, yeah, dying defensively and all
dying
that. Yeah.
defensively, and then that transferred into taking pot shots at the NFL because they deserve it. Like any big capitalist organization. Oh, got it. No, it happened. Someone ring the bell or get the counter there where Meph takes a shit on capitalism on a show. If you like it, it's fine, guys. But I gotta go on my shit. They don't. It's the NFL. It's a bunch of rich white guys wanting to make a shit ton of money, and they think that there's an endless supply of people who are willing to just next man up, be the next person to get injured
Now
and
is the
ruined.
time to
And there's
put
only
aside
so
your weak human side
so
and
much
join
you can
me
exploit
in
and beat the shit out of your
remaking this
workers,
world.
which are the players in the NFL. Like before they just go elsewhere. Like the prestige of the NFL is very high in America, but as all the other sports are safer and raise in prestige, you're seeing people go to those instead. How many 3-sport athletes or 2-sport athletes do you have? They look at the NFL scholarship and they look at the baseball scholarship. If they care about living a long time, healthy, they're going to take the baseball scholarship. It's just logistics. So make your sport healthier, NFL. Not to
Yeah.
I like the savagery of the NFL. Don't get me wrong. Like it's that gladiator shit. I enjoy watching two men kill each other for my enjoyment. But
Well, let me can I just riff on what you just said and
Sure.
then take us back to the idea of spectacle?
yeah.
Because we've talked a bunch about fighting,
Mhm.
and this is what we call heavy. It's heavy melee. It's heavy fighting. But I should also talk about the historical part. To be fair to those guys, like I don't get down with that, but it is super awesome and important. It's just not where my passion is in the game, in the SCA.
Well,
But we have
I like that you're Bushi. You're rocking the Japanese style. So I'm a big
yeah.
fan of that.
So let's there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. That was actually one of them. So there's not only heavy. Heavy is just one part of it, and a lot of people like me, that's the only part we care about. Like I'll be honest, I have no desire to go fencing. The fencers do their thing. It takes a lot of skill. It's great. It's not my cup of tea. There's only so many hours in the day. I can't do everything.
Hmm.
And in this hobby, you can't do everything. You can't collect every army. You can't go to ETC and WC and ATC and LVO and everything. You can't do everything you want to do. You gotta curate your experience. And so for me, I love heavy. Heavy is where my joy is. Heavy is where my guys are. It's where my people are. It's where I found my tribe in the game.
Mhm.
I love it. But there's other stuff. There's so much other stuff. It's crazy. Like you can get into fencing. We have an amazing like fencing community, and that is a completely different skill set. You don't wear heavy armor. You wear a traditional fencing mask, it's medieval in appearance, but it's essentially the stuff you would wear at the Olympics. That kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And they fence, and it's all skill duels and fencing, like everything you would expect. And those guys do something I could never do, like unless I put my mind to it. But like
Fencing
it's
gets
not like
so fucking fast. They were running into issues in the
yeah,
Olympics where like the blows were landing faster than the technology could register it. So they had to
yep,
reinvent the technology
yep,
because the skill of any athlete, anything with athletics, the skill of the athletes in it, even on the heavy side, they just get better and better. Like competition is like
yeah,
whetstone and blade. It's
yep,
that you only get sharper, you only get stronger. Our athletes now in pick any sport are better than they were. I'm sorry, 100 years ago at that sport. Like
sure.
it's cool to like modify it for the time, but like athletes get faster, bigger, stronger. The
It's
technology,
tribal knowledge too.
the
It's tribal
technique,
knowledge.
yeah, they don't have to like mess up as many times as you
Yeah,
did to get to where you got to. You get to shortcut them in knowing the proper techniques for this. Like
yep,
you had to take 16 shots to like to the dome to like learn how to guard this one particular like blindside or something. And you're like, hey, actually,
yep,
when you're fighting, keep in mind to like if you keep
right.
your
And
shoulder
so
up
now,
just
yeah,
this much higher, right?
exactly. So now I can have someone come into my fighting practice and go, this is a hang guard.
Yeah.
Like have your shield up and have this here. instead of here, and it'll protect you in such a way. I don't have to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
I can have my guys talk to me about it. And yes, everybody in the unit who might be watching this, that was a terrible handguard. Don't at me about it. Like I'm sitting in my basement, like
At
on my shield.
ULF Paints on Twitter if you need to get at him.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but yeah, so there's fencing. That's another whole side of it. To answer Kicker's question in the chat, yes, there is jousting. It's pretty rare though, just because of the expense of having horses and having a place to do it and having the insurance to do it, having a site that will allow you to put people and horses together in a place where they're going to bang into each other. Like that is not common, especially where I live in the Northeast. I live in the border of PA and New Jersey, and there's not a lot of jousting out here, but it does exist. Mostly out west and down south. So there's heavy, there's fencing, there's archery, there's target archers, like guys who do nothing but get down with like historical archery techniques. There's knife throwing, axe throwing. All of these things are just as important as part of this community because it is a medieval kind of reenactment element to it. It's not really role playing. There's no like storyline, and people aren't in character or anything. And I'm not poo-pooing that. I've LARPed for years too. There's a place for that. It's just not here. It's two different buckets.
Yeah.
As soon as someone's walking around being like, "Ho Tito, my lady, oh my lord,"
Yeah.
the sun is up. Apollo has put away his skirt. The day is launched, and everyone's like, "All right, chief, like, why don't you simmer down?"
and yet you have a king.
Yeah, and yet we have a king. And yes, the SCA has parts of it that I don't care for. That's one of them.
Really?
But it is a very serious part of it. I don't care for the title. I'll put it that way. I like the institution of it.
Okay.
But I don't care for. I'll be honest. I don't care for the title. And that's with like one of my best friends is going to become king in like a few months, and I will razz him mercilessly about it. I will respect the shit out of his commitment to the path of the warrior to have gotten there. He beat a bunch of people who are like mad good fighters. He clawed his way to the top, and he deserves every ounce of respect that he can get from it. But the title king is stupid as fuck, and whatever. It's not my battle to fight. My personal opinion. See my earlier comment about grain of salt,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there's all these different activities, right? And then there's a whole other side of it too that is educational. There's a whole arts and sciences side, is what it's called, and those people are dope, man. Those people know things that I don't even know.
Was that like that show on FX or whatever it was where they did like the
Forged in Fire?
Whatever the science, they did a science of like combat show where they went through like the different medieval periods and they would like they like talk about like what the traditional forgery would have been for this, what minerals and things were available, and then like the long sword of the Viking and how much velocity they could actually like get, the average height and size, like all that shit.
These dudes that we do this game with, they know all that stuff. Like half the contestants on like Forged in Fire and like Night Fight are all people from SCA. Like that's the community. Yeah. And we're talking about people who know like the most obscure stuff that's like really cool, but it doesn't like float my boat the way the fighting does. Yeah. So you get people who be like, "Yo, I made this reproduction of this like Book of Hours from like the 14th century in Ireland that's made with like the actual paper making techniques. I made all this paper. I like bleached this using this. I like took the acid out of it using this. I bound it using this. Like I had to source like sheep tendons to make like the book binding for it." And it's like, yo, like that's amazing. And there's all of that, and you can like go and do classes. You can learn all this stuff. Like, a good friend of mine does like research in like Middle Eastern and Egyptian types of like bookmaking and all this stuff, and like pigments of the period and cooking and everything. Like,
I've seen some of those period cooking. This not necessarily SCA. There's a couple YouTube channels out there that make period food.
Yeah, and those dudes are probably in the SCA.
And I'm just like, those dudes are probably like. I watch it. I'm just like, they were doing something with like the hardtack. Yep. That would have been. I'm just like watching them like recreate. I'm like, this. But this is my like ability to be curious about anything. I'm hearing all this, and two things are firing off in my head. one hemisphere of my brain is just saying fucking nerds, and the other hemisphere of my brain is like, that's so fucking cool though.
Yeah, but
Like,
why are those mutually exclusive, man? Like,
they're not. They're both
it's
firing at the same time.
yeah,
Like,
but
I love
it's
nerds. I just love nerds.
and
Is what I'm saying.
it's a community that, like, if you show up and you're like passionate about like anything, like you find like the most nichest corner casiest thing, like you want to be the dude who researches heraldry from I don't know, like name a thing. You want to research like this corner of like Crusader heraldry from this particular region of France from this like decade. Someone will be like, you want to learn about that? You're awesome. Instead of being like, all right, nerd, like why don't you read Lord of the Rings and sit down? They'll be like, that's a fantastic thing. When you're done, please tell me what you learned.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Like that whole thing. Like I've been talking a lot about fighting, but because I basically just don't know enough about the other stuff because I'm not as heavily involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all sick. It's all great.
Yeah.
For people who don't want to fight or can't fight anymore, there's all stuff to do in the society. It's fantastic. I kind of want to hit, if you don't mind, one kind of broad topic, and then can we talk a little bit about the parallels between it and AOS?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've got a few questions here from Twitter because I sent.
All right, go for it. Yeah,
I've got a few questions here from Twitter from earlier. Maybe do these rapid fire style,
sure.
real quick. So you've already answered. You have been to Pensick, which
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. Many
Mecca.
physics.
What kingdom are you from? So there's multiple. There's more than one kingdom. Like,
Yes. All
okay,
right. So we'll get into this. Yeah, there's multiple kingdoms. We call it the known world. That's the moniker for it, and it's broken up by geography. So where I live is in the East Kingdom. So the East Kingdom encompasses like the East Coast of the United States, and it goes from somewhere up in Canada, like Nova Scotia, down to about Virginia. And that's rough. I don't exactly know where the borders are, but
sure.
it's down there. And then below that is like Atlantia, which is Virginia down to like Florida. And
Howdy, y'all! Like the lost
right.
civilization of
And then there's
of
then there's
Atlanta.
like then there's Trimaris below that. You, for example, you live in North Shield. North
Metal.
Shield is the kingdom that encompasses Wisconsin. I got some links for you for that a little later on.
All
Uh,
right.
so there's kingdoms, yes.
All right. So there's kingdoms. Do you know roughly how many kingdoms? 50, 60, 100? How many?
What is the actual number now? I should know this. Less than 20.
Less than 20. More than
Yeah,
10,
they're
less
they're
than 20.
enormous.
Yeah.
They're enormous. Like
Okay.
like Drachenwald is like all of Europe. You know, yeah. The West is like California and Oregon. Like it's broken up. I can send you a map.
No, that's cool. I think that's sufficient for the show. So then, household or no? Are you in a household or not? Like,
I am not in a household. I'm actually in a fighting unit, which is a little bit different. We're one of the few fighting units in the East that's not a household. So let me let me explain what a household is, because whoever asked that knows what they're talking about. They just
they fight
explained.
in SCA weekly.
Okay, great.
There's shout outs to Caleb. Couldn't make it tonight.
Where at?
I not quite certain where Caleb's based out of.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm in the East. Uh, I should know how many kingdoms there are, but honestly, I've had a long day and I'm tired and I
No, you're fine,
forget.
man.
So yeah, so there's households. Households are groups of people who generally take the same last name for their. There's things called personas. We'll get into that in a minute. But essentially, you're all bound together by like a common heraldry and a common purpose, and you're usually friends. It's like your crew, right? So I'm in the 404, which is this, and that's a unit. We don't call ourselves a household, even though we pretty much are. The reason we don't call ourselves a household is because we want our participants to be allowed to be in other households as well. So, for example, there's a famous household in the East called Von Holstern, and all the guys in that wear a certain heraldry, black and purple, and all their persona names all have the last name Von Holstern. So you can be in House Von Holstern or House Von Drachenklau, or any of the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And So you can have these houses, and then you have fighting units. So we would have, like, our guys, like we have a couple of guys in this household, a couple of guys in that household, but when we muster together, this is the uniform we wear over the top of that, and we fight as a unit. So that's the
Cool.
short answer to that guy.
Cool. Metal. And then something about mercenary house or chivalry. Like, you mentioned, so you can be a mercenary house too. Is that my understanding? Like,
Yes, you can be. Yeah, you can be a house that's considered chivalry. That's not like a official term. It sort of like depends on where you are. It's like the culture of the game.
hmm
So a chivalric house would generally be a house where there's knights in it, chivalry,
hmm hmm
and then they only work for a certain kingdom. So they would only work for the east, or they would only work for the west or north shield or whatever. And then there's mercenaries, which are groups that could, depending on where they go during a war, they could line up with this side, line up with that side. They don't owe allegiance to a certain region.
Hmm. I bet there's some politics in there about like people who are mercenaries and stuff, and
Yes.
they're like, ah, fuck those mercs. Like,
Remember I said the fuck's wallet was empty?
yeah,
That's what it's empty for.
it,
that exact that
really,
exact issue.
wow,
Dude, it's a group of people. So there's gonna be good, there's gonna be bad, there's gonna be politics. That's
yeah.
and I we don't love the politics because it harshes our fun.
Uh,
So
Real quick here. Hey, Fluke Skywalker, how's it going, my friend? Thank you for dropping the 1,000 RDP to remind everyone that chat gang ain't nothing to mess with. Um, yeah, all right, right on. I think so. Those are the main. Um, and then we're gonna go into that one naturally. um, this next one it ties into our question about Warhammer Parallel, so I'll save those questions until then. So then you want to just mention one sort of broader thing, and then we're going to switch over to the
yeah,
Warhammer
yeah, absolutely.
Parallels.
I
Okay.
want to I want to talk about the conceit of SCA. So
Okay.
we've talked about the methods, fighting, armor, what weapons look like. I haven't shown this in a bit, but like for anyone who's joining, like we're not fighting with boffer weapons. This is rattan stick that will. It's like basically a billy club. It would like it's like being hit with a baseball bat. Only these don't break as easy. The armor is legit, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
actual metal armor. Um, so we've talked about the process of it, right? Like here's a helmet that I wear. It's one of my rigs. So this is my Bushi helmet. Um, so this bad
Oh,
boy weighs about 21 pounds.
I'm a little bit of a. I think everyone in chat gang knows this, but treat every episode like it's the first episode. I'm a bit of a
Yeah,
Japanophile or a Katanophile, like so.
yeah,
Huge props to rocking the going for the Japanese style. That's great. That's awesome.
yeah. So
We got the demon mask there for
yeah,
people who
yeah.
can't necessarily
Oh,
see. Um,
yeah. It's my red Tengu. You know,
yeah.
because the whole red and blue thing in.
Well, teach me like I don't, in case someone in the
Okay.
audience doesn't know.
So there's like these sort of like archetypal characters in some of Japanese like folklore, and I don't claim to be like a Japanophile. I did a moderate amount of research for this persona, so if I'm wrong, you'll forgive me. Hopefully,
I love you
but the
too,
idea
Crit
is,
Naked.
um,
Nice. Yeah, go
so,
ahead. Random.
so like my buddy and I both have these Bushi personas. We made our armor together. Like it was a whole bonding process. We like have. I think I sent you a picture of the two of us standing there looking like goons. I'm wearing mostly red. He's wearing mostly blue. And there's a whole red versus blue thing where there's like these Oni or Tengu
Oh,
who,
red versus blue is eternal. Like it's not just a video
yeah.
game thing. It's yeah. Go ahead.
But the personality of those two like fit us to a T. So like the blue guy is like quiet and and peaceful, but like hides like a murderer's heart and is able to like bust out when he needs to. And the red guy is the opposite. The red guy is like placid and sad, but has like a big personality.
Mm-hmm.
So like we take the field. And that's how we fight. We embrace the whole red Oni, blue Oni
And you say you
of it
don't
all.
RP, but you are.
Oh well, that's what I'm getting to. That's the conceit. I'm getting there. I'm
All
getting
right.
there.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. You
No,
can talk about the conceit real quick while I step away.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. Keep
please
going.
do. So part of what happens is that people often ask, is the SCA a LARP? Is it a live action role playing game? And in some senses, yes, but in also other senses, it's not. It's not a LARP the way you would recognize it, where like I'm playing this character, and like when I show up to an event, I am, whatever. Sir fights a lot, knight ordinaire. I'm not that guy, but we do have the idea of the medieval pageantry of it all is like alive and well. That's a whole thing, but there's no story or narrative that like drives it. So one of the things that that we all have is we all have what's called a persona, and persona would be the name that we're known by in SCA circles. So like my real name, my actual out of game like real life name, my first name is Ulf, which does happen to be like a medieval appropriate name. So I just use it also for my persona name. Um, but then people will take like a name that fits the the time period and the culture they're trying to represent. Um, so in real life, I'm Ulf, and if I go to SCA right now, I have a Japanese persona. So when I'm wearing the armor and I'm at SCA, it's Lord Tamatomo no Takahiro, which is my Scadian persona at the moment. Um, Personas can change. You can have as many as you want. Like if you want to be a conquistador one day, and then you want to make another armor set that's a Bushi set, you're Japanese the next day. You want to go, you know, uh, Hussar the event after that. Then you want to go Hoplite the event after that. If you are a millionaire and you can afford a million suits of armor and a bunch of garb, then you're welcome to do that. No one's locked into anything. Um, and that's where the whole conceit of the kingdoms comes in. So there's different kingdoms, and each one is ruled by a king or a queen or both. Um, and there's all this pageantry involved with that, where there's what's called a crown tournament, where people will compete, and like you have to like submit a letter of intent. You have to agree to like show up to events. If you win, you have to basically confirm your commitment. Um, I'm not sure if this chat delay is effective, but I did just answer that question, Mephisto, about switching personas. I can't tell how much of a delay there is, but yes, you can switch personas. So each kingdom is ruled by king and queen. And essentially, what ruled means in this context is they become like the TOs, to use a Warhammer analogy. They decide this tournament, this event is going to be run in this fashion. We're going to do this and that, recognize these people. We're going to hold events here and there. And they sort of become like a director slash like kind of oversight role for the geographic area that they're responsible for. So King and Queen of the East make decisions for people living and fighting in the East. King and Queen of North Shield would make decisions for events and people fighting in Mephisto's neck of the woods. A king and queen reign for 6 months, generally speaking. At the end of that time, there's another crown tournament to determine their heirs, and then those people become king and queen after them. We're going to have a busy year because one of the guys in our unit just won a crown. One of our guys is scary good and has been putting in the work for like 10 plus years to get there. Finally got there just a week or so ago. Fought his way to the top, took the number one spot, and is now going to be in charge of the East for his reign of 6 months, which is going to be exciting, and is also going to mean we have to start going to events again once COVID allows us to. Um, so the whole conceit of it that I mentioned was about it being medieval, but it not being a role playing game. You know, people aren't necessarily in character. They're not carrying out plot lines. They're not doing any of that stuff. There's a lot of pageantry though, and in this regard, to circle back to what we've been talking about and touching on a bunch, it's a lot like uh, like wrestling. The pageantry lines up perfectly with that, where it's there's court, for example, where like the business end of the SCA gets done. If someone's going to like receive an award, like let's say someone is like a badass armorer and they make armor for people and give it away for free, and they're donating of their time and stuff, they might get an award for that. They might be recognized for that. So there'll be like a court where like the king and queen like sit up on a stage, and they're like heralded in, and it's a whole dog and pony show that some people really love. I personally don't care for it that much, but I don't have to. It's your game. Make of it what you want. But people really get into it, and then that's what these sort of nobles do. So the organization of it is geographic. Like I said, it's by zip code. So there's the East Kingdom, and then within the East Kingdom there'll be like baronies, counties, shires, depending on how big the area is.
Right.
So like I used to live in Jersey, where I lived in Setmore Swamp. I lived in the barony of Setmore Swamp, and then I moved to PA, and now I live in the Shire of Eisenthal, which means really nothing other than like who do I go to for SCA related stuff in my area, like who's responsible.
Yeah, you're just putting like a sort of a medieval, pseudo-medieval like affect on top of regular organizational stuff that any big organization would need to function.
Yep, absolutely. So like you for example, I looked up your zip code after you gave it to me, and I'm not going to dox you here, except maybe to Scadians. So you live in the. Do you care about Scadian doxing?
No. Go ahead. You can say it. That's fine.
You want people to show up at your house with like delicious medieval food?
Oh, dude, you can food, human achievement. These are the ways we bring each other. Being fucking nerds. These are the ways we bring the world together. So
you live in the Kingdom of Northshield, like I said, which is a kingdom up in your neck of the woods.
I respect it. I'm a main tank in MMOs, so.
And then you live in a shire. It looks like.
Oof.
Which is a small. Well, so do I. Whatever. Don't knock the Shire, man. Hobbits. Respect the hobbits, man.
Disgusting. No, go ahead.
But your Shire has a very German name, so I'm guessing there's a lot of German personas out there.
Shit tons. Well, I mean, this is a German area. This is a German immigrant area.
Yeah. So this makes sense. And you live in a place called Turm an dem See is the name of it. Shire of Turm an dem See, which means the tower on the water, or the tower on the lake. And you have a whole like website that I can send you a link to.
Wait, are you telling me that if I really felt like it, I could be fighting people for real? Like,
yeah, you be fighting people by next week. You can put the call out, and there's literally an office called Chatelaine, and a Chatelaine's job is to reach out to new people and bring them into fighting.
I gotta get like armor and all that shit together. Like,
dude, if you can afford Kragnos and a box of brutes, I can put you in armor like right away. Like armor is shockingly affordable if you put in little sweat equity.
Yeah, all right.
The only thing that's expensive is a helmet.
Well, because of technology, right? Like you gotta.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I can my lids are pretty expensive because I have them custom made because I want them to look dope.
Yeah.
But you can get a perfectly serviceable starter helm that will keep you perfectly safe, that I fought in for years. I won't recommend anything to anyone I haven't fought in myself. But if anyone's interested, like I can give you a link to like a guy who can put you in a helmet for under $200.
Molly will kill me. Like she will actually kill me.
I mean,
She's like, her whole thing is like, I just keep getting nerdier and nerdier the older I get. I'm like, no, it's just I'm letting more and more of my guard down for you to see my true form. Like,
well, listen, this is athletics.
Mm-hmm. I might lose some weight, like I'll get healthier.
This is socializing with people outdoors and doing something active. This is stress relief. Like there's a whole.
Well, we've got the Bristol Renaissance Fair here, which is like one of the top 4 in the world. I don't know how they measure that shit, if it's size or
it's the number of Jack Sparrow assholes that are there.
Yeah, I don't know, but like no, like we go to the Ren Fair every year. I mean, like
my wife loves the Ren Fair too.
Yeah, my whole family is like, Molly just actually bought some steampunk shit for it. I'm like I can't wait for the first like nerd to walk up to her and like, "Milady, I don't recognize such trinketry," and just like the glare that will move across my face. Like,
I could not hate the Renaissance Fair anymore if I tried.
I was waiting for it.
I've been cordially asked not to return to the Renaissance Fair several times in Tuxedo, New York, the Sterling Forest Ren Fair.
What is like the whole thing? Like, so anachronism is a word that basically means like out of time or out of
Mhm.
sync,
Yeah.
and like so like even within the word anachronism, or
Mhm.
it's telling you that this is out of place or out of time. And like, what is it about the Ren Fair where like they just too self serious or like?
No, I have a big thing about boundaries.
Oh
I
yeah, that's fair.
I
I can see where this is going.
hate capital H letter 8 people coming up to me and putting their hands on me when I haven't asked them to. And I'm 6'5" and usually wearing like dope costuming, so everyone assumes I'm there for the show. I want to be part of the show. Oh, look at this guy.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, don't touch me. Don't come up. Don't put your arm around me.
yeah,
Don't roll a goddamn pickle cart half full of salmonella up to me and be like, pickle, my lord.
yeah,
Like, don't, just don't. And because I stand out in a crowd, I get it all the time. People don't believe me. They think this is bull, but like I promise you, this happens. I had a lady who wouldn't let me out of the goddamn little mask kiosk. She kept like she was in a wheelchair and she kept rolling to block my way. And she's like, "Buy a mask," and I was like, "You need to
yeah.
roll your way out of here so I can leave." Like I don't like it. And then she's like, "No, buy a mask." And like starts tugging at my sleeve, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
I
Like,
I am a yeah, man. I don't know what box I fit in these days, but this is the Bucks were in the playoffs, basketball shit. So you can tune out now, and you'll hear words about like fighting, and you can tune back in.
well,
But we were at the Ren Fair, and I had a decision to make if I was going to go in like Ren Fair regalia or Bucks gear. And it was
Bucks
like
gear.
a playoff game was that night. I think it was like the sixth game, and it's like a huge deal. And I chose Bucks over Renaissance regalia, so I didn't like put on my like poet shirt and
Well,
my boots.
you made the right choice.
But as we were leaving, so first off, like my friend who showed up, he also decided to like put on his Buck stuff, and we just like kind of looked at each other, with that like, like both of
Right?
us had the decision. We didn't talk to each other about it. We're like, we both chose correctly. But as we're leaving the Ren Fair, we had people chanting Bucks and Six and stuff like that. It was like really hilarious. So you had all these people in this, like really expensive, really well put together
Yeah,
costuming, just like breaking character or persona to chant Bucks and Six because it's just, I mean, Bristol it's right on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. It's like right smack in the middle, and so you get it's a bunch of nerds from Milwaukee too, right? Like Wisconsin's the birthplace of sort of the modern nerd. Gen Con was Lake
yeah.
Geneva, Wisconsin, moved to Milwaukee and ended up in Indy. Gary Gygax is from here. Like, there's a shit ton of nerds in Wisconsin, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
Well, it's cold. What are you gonna do in the winter other than like get
game.
up and play games?
Yep, that's it. Yep, that's what you do.
Yeah. That's why all the German dudes settled there. Like I got family up there.
Yep. Yeah. No, I was just lamenting our neighbor. He's the German teacher, at one of the schools here, and we were just complaining about the lack of like good Spätzle in what's supposed to be like a hub of like German like sort of
Yeah.
culture, and I'm just like, but no fuckers, yeah, you make a fucking schnitzel, but I want the Spätzle, damn it, to go with it to be good, and but I digress.
Speaking of digressions, Kernigget, I agree with your last comment. If you bought Kragnos, you probably don't need a helmet.
Nothing up there worth saving. Oh, shots fired.
I
So,
mean,
go ahead.
He's out of line, but he's not wrong.
So you very technically speaking, I have bought a Kragnos, but it was as a bribery for someone to make a song for me. So
I mean, listen, it's all jokes or none of it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean that's a pretty fantastic transition to talking a little bit about Warhammer, though, don't you think? Speaking of
Let's do it.
Kragnos, yeah. This is a question that comes to mind. I've asked, so it's Michael Davis, MMA fighter, in sort of the Canadian Pro League that filters into what people might know as the UFC. They call it something else in Canada, but it's the same thing,
Sure.
right? And he was on here, and we were talking about like, sort of like his prep mentality and how that translates to MMA. I have to think it's more of a one-to-one with what you do than even just like find the sort of the esoteric or maybe a little like,
Um,
you know
in what regard?
well,
When you say
because
prep, what do you mean?
Well, for him, it was like we were talking about more the prep side of the mental game. But with something like this, your combat sport, you're actually simulating. It's not just a one-on-one. You're actually simulating like unit combat.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd imagine that extends beyond just like sort of the mental prep of combat, then going into a combat game, but literally, movements and stuff that you see working on the, in reality, where you're talking about like, sometimes you don't
Okay.
get lateral movement. Well, how does that translate to Warhammer? Do you think you're a better
Okay.
Warhammer player? I guess is what I'm asking, because you're
No.
in SCA. Okay.
Nope. The short answer is no. And the reason is that Warhammer and miniatures games. For anyone who's just tuned in, since I had this conversation at the beginning, I'm going to recap and take a page from Mephisto's book and
Treat it like it's
reference back
different.
to what we said before.
Yep.
Is I played a lot of different miniatures games, including the old fantasy battle where like the weaponized geometry, and all the rectangles get smaller, etc. Um, that stuff, all miniatures games are abstractions, and the pace of a miniatures game is so extremely different, and the abstraction causes it to be like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of like a Polaroid of something that
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
already photocopied compared to the real thing. So, and the real thing being as close as we can get, 600 dudes charging each other full speed like that, facsimile of it, which is in itself a facsimile, obviously, because no one's really dying.
Mm-hmm.
But the pace of it is what distinguishes the two. In Warhammer, in any we'll use AOS because that's the show is about. But in any miniatures game, the abstraction level is so extreme that it's like it doesn't even play in the same ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is you have 1,000, a million, 10 million times more opportunity to make decisions and think about things when you're playing a game of AOS than you will ever have in an SCA battle. So in an SCA battle, you can't look at the battlefield from a drone's eye view. You can't survey it ahead of time. You can't see what's there, see what's not there. You can't look and go, okay, we got. You can see that you got woods. Like I can see there's trees over there, and I can see that that patch of ground's a little higher than this patch of ground. And like, yeah, that means don't send your guys who are old and have shitty ankles into the woods. Like keep them on the flat, and that kind of stuff. Um, don't send your spear unit into the woods because they're going to get fouled. Send your skirmish guys in there. But that's about it. Like you have to kind of make your decisions on a different basis,
Mm-hmm.
because also in an open information environment, not to get too game theory on you, but like
No,
in
it's
an
fine.
open
It's
information
encouraged.
environment like AOS, I can look across and I can go, all right, Bestigors, like cool, okay, Kragnos, cool. I kind of, even if I haven't memorized the rules, I kind of know what those do.
Mm-hmm.
I can go,
And
oh,
you know where
Warsong
they are
Revenant.
specifically too. Like
Yeah,
you know that.
and even stuff that I don't know where they are, like if we're playing Sylvaneth, I don't know where those guys are going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but I know roughly what five tree revenants can do or spy revenants can do, and I know that they can teleport around. So that's like a known quantity, and I can sort of quantify that, and I have time to process it. I can look and go, all right, well, there's a Warsong Revenant over here, and there's a Wildwood over here, and I know there's going to be a spell portal in my future, and that stupid spell is going to go off, and it's going to D3 mortal wound my face off. Like I
Mm-hmm.
get it, and I can kind of anticipate even if I can't plan. And none of that exists in SCA. Like you can't do none of that
You just
because you don't know the intangibles. You can look at the ground, you can look at the field, and you can say, all right, well, I got my guys, and we're good at pulse charges, and I got you know whoever
no,
stand next to me picked.
your spears up ahead
Right.
like
I got
you.
I got Bloodguard on one side of me, and I know those guys are good at something else, and I can be like, all right, and we got the two Chucks over there on
Oh,
the.
okay. What's Bloodguard? Because they sound metal as
Oh, it's
hell.
just another unit. It's
Okay.
another household.
All right. Right on.
Right. I mean, it's a bunch of dudes. They wear black and red and the White Cross. I don't know. They're another household that's recognizable. That's mostly just for people who are from other parts of the SCA. They might
Other Scadians might know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They won't know if I say, oh, we have VDK over there. They might not know who that is. But Bloodguard is like a well-known unit.
Okay.
Or Sir Mohammed's guys from Quebec might be over there with their spear wall. You have these units that you sort of know what they do, but like, dude, I don't know if the VDK guys were up drinking last night Like I don't know how much they got left in the tank. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if my guys like did like, this guy get a good night's sleep? Is this guy's ankle still bothering him? Is this guy's rotator cuff injury still acting up?
Yeah.
Like, all of these things factor in such a way that it's just like bewildering and you can't account for it. So what you have to do is you have to make, judgments kind of on the fly based on imperfect information that's so much less perfect than you have in Age of Sigmar that a lot of it doesn't apply. But what's funny is you asked if doing SCA has made me better Age of Sigmar, and the answer is no. But if you ask, has Age of Sigmar made me better at SCA, the answer is yes.
Interesting.
The skill transfer for me personally, and again, grain of salt, this is my experience, your mileage will vary. For me, being able to look at mismatches has really helped. And I've been wargaming longer than I've been fighting.
Trading is really, I think, the colloquialism we're kind of settling on now is knowing if you're going to trade up or trade down on the table, right? Like,
but even that positional advantage based on mismatch is something that I've gotten pretty good at. My main game is War Machine and Hordes. Like my AOS is not my main game. I love it right now because I get to play it. There's a very small War Machine and Hordes community out by me, but
you play the game you can, yeah.
Right. And in those games, like I know, like I play Fire Slayers. That's my jam. Because
I found the one. We've answered the paradox, the Fermi's paradox of Warhammer. Where are they? We found the one Fire Slayers player. Chat gang. There's two of them. It's you and Vanilla Sauce. I found two of you in the entire world.
There's like three in my local meta here.
So it's like when you pile shuffle and all your force of wills end up stuck together. All the fire.
Yeah, because we're the foils. Don't get it twisted.
Like all the foils.
We weigh slightly more and we're curvy. You know what I'm saying? We're not like fat middle-aged dudes. We're the foils.
That's such. Oh man, the humor, the layers of the humor that just happened there.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, sorry. Go on.
And I'll go you one better. I play Vostarg. Get the fuck out of here with Hermdar. I play Vostarg exclusively because that's the truth, man. Because I want my dwarves to be Ironjaws? ? Except without dope war chanters and monsters. I want like shitty budget monsters and priests with overpriced incantations. That's great. But I don't care, man. I'm not here to put up W's. I don't care about ITC. Like I'm here to have fun and paint sweet models and have dwarves.
This is the keeping it real cast now. Oh yeah. Man.
Listen, man. I'm going. I'm going to a tournament. Saturday morning. I'm gonna roll out. I'm gonna take 2,000 points of Fire Slayers. I'm gonna have the best time, and if I go 2 and 3, I'll be happy.
This is an interesting question. I kind of want to. I've got my own follow-up to this question. We'll see if you feel to hear from Koenig. So how would you change AOS to make it a better representation of actual combat? And I have my own question, piggybacking off of that.
Well, let me say that AOS already is a pretty fair representation of how real combat works, honestly. There's a lot of the basic tenets of AOS that duplicate kind of what we see, like especially the shooting rules, actually. And a lot of people I've heard this over the years, like, oh, shooting is nonsense. Like you're shooting in a combat, that doesn't work. Yeah, it does. My friend Mick runs like a combat archer kind of program here in the East, and he's very active in promoting combat archery. And the number of times that I have seen, okay, so setting the stage, we have what's called a resurrection battle, okay? Mm-hmm. And a resurrection battle is where you respawn like in a first-person shooter.
Bound in hell.
Okay? So you go, you get killed, hand on your head, you walk back to the res point. And at the res point, usually like tap a hay bale or like check in with a marshal, and then they do a clicker to count how many people have died. All right? And then you walk back to the battlefield and cycle yourself back in. And that's what's called a resurrection battle, okay? The number of resurrection battles that I've gone to where I'm walking up to the battle and there's like 30 guys walking back to me just with like the poo face on, just being like fucking archers, sons of bitches archers, and they just walk back and they're just like, God damn, a resurrection point, and they turn around and they go back and they assist. By the time I'm like up at the battle, they're already walking back again. Like, shot me again. So like a lot of the things in AOS really accurately represent stuff. Like we'll have what's an AOS unit that both fights and shoots that
Well,
isn't like that hasn't been like legended.
well, Sentinels are just like they're so shooty that they're insane.
Right.
There
So
isn't really
Volkite
any.
Berserkers. Well, Volkite Berserkers, they have hand axes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Volkite Berserkers, because that's the army I know. I was thinking like Sisters of the Watch or whatever the old.
There's the
elf
Shadow Warriors have like a decent
Shadow
shot.
Warriors.
Have
Yeah.
like a
Okay.
have like a decent shot right now, and like
So
are decent. But they're not, the thing is like AOS like kind of requires specialization.
sure.
Like it. So go on. Yeah.
Yeah, because you only have 6 points of statistical attachment. It's just a D6, so you have to specialize.
Right.
But like, okay, so Volkite Berserkers have a dumb hand axe attack, right? Hits on 5s or whatever, it's garbage. But you can get some wounds. We actually fight that way. We actually have we have this awesome thing we call it a trauma hawk. It looks like a tomahawk, but it's a throwing weapon that's combat safe. It's made of like compressed foam, so there's nothing rigid inside of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's heavy enough that it still hits with like authorita.
Yeah. So it gives a good thonk. Like you can hear
yeah.
the yeah.
So instead of a tomahawk, it's a trauma hawk because of the trauma it causes people.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll go into a battle and everyone will carry 2 of them in like their armpit. They'll just like have them under their shield. And as we're closing, unleash a couple of trauma hawks, and if you get a lucky kill, you get a lucky kill, just like Volkites.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's draw your main and follow in. So the idea of like being able to shoot into combat is like legit. Like it happens all the time. Like I've been killed with arrows like an embarrassing number of times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real thing. And if you are in melee with someone, you're generally only shooting that unit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because you can't shoot anything else. It's because your unit commander has been like, yo, this is who we have to kill right here. Don't be worrying about those guys.
Yeah.
Like VDK's got those guys. Like Von Holstein's got those guys. Like chill on those guys. But we're fighting these dudes here, and we need to take this point. So if I see my archers here, they better be shooting here. You better be throwing trauma hawks here. You better be
right.
You better be focusing here. And it totally works. We often have archers mixed in with us, like standing behind our lines. They'll pop over the top of a shield, throw a shot, fade back and reload. So AOS, I think, actually really pretty accurately represents some of those things in unit combat.
Mm-hmm.
Battle shock is a thing. We don't call it that in SCA, but like if you've been fighting for an hour in 100 plus pounds of gear and it's 90 degrees out and 85% humidity because for some stupid reason you're fighting in Jersey in July, then you tap out at some point. Like you just suffer attrition losses because somebody doesn't want to get a heat stroke. So you start off with 30 guys fighting, and by the time an hour's gone by, you might have 19, 20 guys left.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're respawning. So that stuff's represented really well. You saw in those videos, formation is like that. You need a certain spacing to make it work.
Well, the coherency was actually like really funny. You're like, look at that 1-inch coherency right there, and
yeah.
And the way that you do kind of fight in ranks, right? Like
you have to, yeah.
I mean, I know in studying history and reading, like I'm not one of the super. I like history, but I'm not one of those like.
You're not a boffin.
The one who like absolutely loves like all the combat stuff. All they do is like read about like all the historical battles. That's their love of history. Like mine's usually a little bit more of like, well, what was a lot more like the difference between like anthropology and like I like I like the social stuff. I like anthropology. I like thinking about what was going on.
Sure.
And all this, like I understand. Like, yeah, read about this pivotal battle, but like, why did that battle happen? Like,
Sure.
So I like that stuff too. And like, yeah, I'll read like a little bit of like combat porn every now and then, but boring white guy shit. But like, yeah, like I'm like, oh yeah, of course, like ranked combat was something, and like I know about the Battle of Thermopylae and stuff like that, and it's one thing to read a historical account and then like actually watch people start to break down into like almost naturally begin to fight that way. Just because.
Well,
go ahead.
It's not natural. We train that way.
Well, so you make it
It
look good, in other words.
Well, no. It's
You make
it
it
only
look
looks good
natural.
from a distance. It only looks good. It's like pointillism because my background's in art,
Yeah, yeah,
so
Monet,
a lot
right?
of art
Like,
metaphors.
yeah.
So yeah, so pointillism. If you look at it up here, it's a mishmash of dots. You got to have it at arm's length for it to be like a painting of a park or something. And combat is the same way. When you're in the mix, like it's chaos. All you're trying to do is take down someone on the other side before you get taken down to preserve your like kill rate
Hmm.
and take the point or do whatever your objective is. Um, but naturally, you don't want to clump up so much because compression kills. That's a truism in SCA. If you are compressed, dead.
Mm.
Okay, so in SCA there are knights. Knight is a title you have to earn. It's like voted on and discussed by people, and to be elevated to knight is a big goddamn deal.
Hmm.
It shows that you've like put in the work. You're like a stone killer on the battlefield. You have like knightly virtues like courage and chivalry and largesse, and you're generally considered someone in like high standing and a serious player, right?
Hmm.
Um, and you literally get a belt. Here's another wrestling metaphor for you.
Nice.
You wear a white belt. So anyone who's wearing a white belt is a knight. So they're sir or dame or whatever they want to be called, right? But they're a knight. Um, and my knight, very very good friend of mine, he is one of the people who is very much into like the melee part end of things, which is why I gravitated toward working with him and training under him. So he's like my like sensei equivalent. And we talk a lot about unit tactics and how units fight and all that. Like I could give a shit about singles. I don't care about singles. It doesn't blow my skirt up the way melee does. So it's not where my energy goes. And the one lesson that he taught me that like has really stuck with me is compression kills. And in both SCA melees and in AOS, you see this. If you get hemmed in and you can't pile in effectively,
Yeah, against.
and if you remember Warhammer Fantasy, you couldn't wrap around effectively because you didn't have the numbers in the right place. That is legit a representation of how units work in real life.
Mm.
Because you need to have a very specific type of spacing to be effective. Because your own weapons can kill your own guys. Like if you're swinging like a lunatic and you backblade somebody and I like blow up my buddy Nick's face behind me, like he's dead. That's friendly fire. So you need a certain distance to work. I fight with polearm and greatsword because
Well,
it's the best.
you're. I mean, you've got a lot of leverage. You're bigger, so you're gonna have like
Yeah,
good reach with it too. Yeah, like there's a.
that really doesn't matter. Body mechanics trumps all that. The hardest shot I ever took was from a guy who was like 5'3". No, the legit hardest shot I've ever taken. I'll tell some more stories at the end, but keep it on AOS.
Yeah, yeah.
You need room to work. I fight with a 6 foot like and a couple of inches polearm usually,
Like a Yari,
or
right? Like
no, a Nagamaki actually.
I love it.
So 50% handle, 50% blade,
That's even
because it
cooler.
is red hot electric sex. That
It's
thing.
it's just like it's just a big sword at that point, and you've just combined two of my favorite things, which is huge swords and pole arms.
Yeah,
So
it's so good. Nagamaki number one. So I fight polearm, and I fight in a particularly interesting style, I think. So there's different styles in SCA combat, like there is in like fencing or kendo or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And I fight close in polearm. Like my happy place is if I got a sword and shield guy like belly to belly with me, he dead. Like unless he's much better than me. And a lot of people are. Like I'm not flexing that I'm a great fighter, but I'm an enthusiastic fighter. I'm tall, so I have excellent leverage, and I can throw a shot like nobody's business. So
Mhm.
I can do okay. Um, but in a situation where I can't move because I'm too hemmed in, and I can't rotate and get my elbow up for the shot that I want to throw, because some jamoke on my own side is like bustling into me,
Mhm.
like I'm dead because I can't maneuver.
Mhm.
And so someone's just going to come in and be like, "Oh, nice block, homie," and just like pop me in the face, and I'm out. So compression kills. So the idea of keeping a tight combat spacing, that's an appropriate combat spacing, while still being close enough to support your dudes perfectly, is mirrored
So
by the
so
one
what?
inch. formation.
So what you're saying is that AOS coherency needs to be 2 inches instead of 1.
No, I like 1.
Dang it.
Sorry, dude. Listen. I played 40k enough. I don't like 2-inch coherency. It's nonsense.
I'm just.
I mean, I think they should adopt the coherency rules from War Machine.
I don't know what those are. I don't play War Machine.
So in War Machine, you have a guy who's designated as the unit leader, right? Just a champion model. Usually the same stats, or he has like a bump to 1 stat, just like AOS.
Yeah.
And he has a command stat, and all his dudes have to be within that many inches of him in whatever formation you choose.
Right on.
So if he has a 6-inch command stat, it can be a 6-inch ring with him in the middle, or it can be 10 dudes over here and 2 dudes down here. As long as they're all within 6 inches of him, it's like a cloud kind of formation.
Ooh, I like that, like an electron cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, and it works great because you can interface that more interestingly with weapon reaches. So if you have like a bunch of dudes who have a 1-inch reach weapon, but they have a 10-inch command.
Oh,
then,
what's the highest the stat can be?
Of what?
The command stat, because
like 8.
I have a feeling that I would be an 8. I have a good cadence, a good gravity.
Sure.
I'm very loud. One of my I don't know if this is a fondest memory of AOS, but I will never forget the first time it was like the second or third time I met Vince in person, but it was the first time I'd sat down with Vince when we both kind of knew who each other were. And we're having like one of those conversations, like those melee conversations where it's just everyone at a table. And he just does this to me. He's like, Andrew, I think he called me Meph. He's like, Meph, I love you, brother. And this is not hyperbole. You are the loudest human I have ever met. He's like, you were meant to talk to crowds. And I remember feeling like I got yelled at by Dad. You know, like a little, I'm just like shrinking some because I was being loud. But I would totally, you can hear my orders, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a real thing too in real fighting. Like if I can't hear what you're saying and what the order is, like if I don't know that we're supposed to advance or I don't know that we're supposed to rally, like I'm not gonna do the thing.
Well, do you ever get the feeling? This is in the Sin City quote, right? Where like I can't remember the names of the characters at this point. It's starting to like just disappear in somewhere deeper in the recesses of my mind. But there's the character with the red Converse. Talking about Marv, and he's like, Marv had the rotten luck of being born in the wrong time. If he was born in like the Roman gladiator,
sure, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Like, do you ever feel like that with the SCA? Like you were, or do you like this facsimile version of it? I mean, obviously the dying stuff sucks.
I honestly couldn't tell you. You know, I try not to go down that road mentally, because I feel like it can very easily lead to people making weird choices that end up not adding to other people's enjoyment.
I like that.
Because you can justify weird behavior.
I like that.
Because it becomes a weird extension of like, oh, but my character would do it.
Yeah, like why would you? I saw the greatest representation of this in the world, and like everyone was like drawn as like a different body organ.
Oh yeah. I saw
and then
that one.
The one was like the dick, and he's like, well, my character would do it, and he's drawn like a dick, and I'm like, why are you playing a character that's a dick?
Right.
Well,
that exists at SCA. It does.
Interesting.
But my character would do it. Like my persona would do it, and you're like, homeboy, you are an assistant manager at a Denny's. Don't tell me what your fucking persona would do. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know, this is not the movie Role Models where you're like, kiss the ring, exit my burger hole, boy.
That movie is fantastic.
Yeah. But
I love Paul Rudd.
That sort of stuff exists, and I'm going to answer Koenig's question in a second because it's a good one, and the answer is yes. We do have musicians. But yeah, the level of commitment it takes to be part of this over the long run is very high.
Yeah.
You're traveling, you're spending money, you're putting your health at risk, you're training, you're going to the gym or you're going to your weekly practice, you're giving up time with your family unless they want to go with you. But like, you know, you're committing to a pursuit that's way more labor intensive than AOS for example, because AOS you can paint in the house while your wife watches, you know, TV or something, or you can paint together, you can do all that stuff. this is very different. Like I can't spend time with other people if I'm in armor. Like I'm just engaging with the people in armor.
Right.
So because of that, it attracts people who like to dive headfirst into things, for good or ill. And we've all met those guys and girls. You know, we've all met those people who dive into something and make it way better for everyone around them. You know, whose love like shines out of them when they do something, and they add energy to a
I
thing by just being there.
I sense you're that type of person, honestly. Like you've
I
been
try.
talking this time and just gushing the energy. I looked at the clock for the first time a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is a meaty rant cast.
Well,
Like you just, I mean, that those people who live by passion and they use
yeah,
their passion to elevate people, that's my jam, you know, right?
mine too.
But like, go
And
on.
then there's people who do the opposite. Then there's the fun
This is
vampires.
about me, and they suck it all in.
They,
This is
they
my
show
show,
up
and
and they dive into it again head first with the same level of passion and enthusiasm, but it's not aimed toward making it better for others. And this hobby attracts those people in equal numbers and in great percentage wise numbers, because it requires such a high buy-in. You know, like you can be part of a book club and love book clubs, but a book club requires you to buy like one,
it's pretty passive to be part of a book club, no matter what
but
your level of passion is. Like you don't need to.
like you could
Yeah,
you could love reading. You could be like, the lit major guy who just wants to do nothing but like dissect. Oh, like I've heard you talk about authorial intent and stuff. You want to do that stuff, and you love it. That's like your
I do.
jam.
I do. Yeah.
You really want to talk about why Stephen King writes the same 5 characters in every book and is unapologetic about it, because he's like, I haven't written them perfectly yet. So guess what? Speedy Parker's showing up again.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Right.
and you're just like, okay, isn't that just Dick Halloran? And he's like, no, he's Speedy Parker. You know why? Because he's not Dick Halloran. Because there's 2 versions of the same. Shut up.
Yeah.
Who's the best-selling author? Me or you? I'm writing it.
Yeah.
And like, you could be that guy who loves that, and like that requires you to buy a book. It requires you to buy a $13 hardcover or an ebook.
Right.
It doesn't require you to buy an $800 helmet. Make sure your health insurance is good. Like, go and get if you're old, go and get like an ibuprofen shot, and like show up with your like repaired
See,
ACL.
I have to wonder if there is a prohibitive aspect to this because of like life insurance
Oh yeah,
aspect, or
totally.
not life insurance, insurance
Life
aspect.
insurance. Yikes. But yeah,
No,
there is
I mean health insurance.
totally.
I said life insurance, but
Oh, totally.
which is
Absolutely.
going to cut your demographic down a little bit. I mean,
Totally.
America
Yeah.
is not the best place for health insurance. I don't know if anyone knows that, paying attention right now. Like, so there's a reckless sort who or is young
Yeah.
enough to not know better yet, which was like me with wrestling. I didn't know that would be a thing
Yeah.
I needed to care about, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the people who are covered, and I mean that's going to
Yep.
narrow your demographic down some.
Totally. And it's who wants to sustain that over the long run. So the point being, you get people who are both good and bad, and you get people who are those bad actors, and you get people who are good actors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's telling the difference, to your original point of like, who's in charge, and what are you doing there?
Mhm.
There's a big aspect of like, what camp do you fall into?
Hmm.
Are you falling into a camp with good people who are aligned with your vision for what the thing is?
Mhm.
Or or you fall into camp with people who you think are good because they win a lot of tournaments and they have like renown, but maybe they're
Bad
not
personal habits, like yeah.
they're not looking for the same thing you are.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging. I'm not putting a past judgment on anyone's personal habits. That's their real life, and this is definitely not.
Uh-huh.
But I will say that there's people who come in with competing visions of the good. You know,
Yeah.
It's like discussing ethics. Like no one can lay down what ethics is because it's a discussion of competing interpretations of the
Well,
good.
there's an aggregate to it.
Sure, there is absolutely.
There's various social contracts and stuff that as
And
a
it's
species
no
we've
different.
refined. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, there's room to argue it.
Right.
And so you do get people. To answer your question about like, do we ever find ourselves in that trap of like, oh, I wish I could just be my persona. I find that's a really unhealthy way to approach things for me, and the people I've seen do it have had a net negative result from it. I'll put it that way.
Interesting. I see. I keep asking these questions that I think are like softball questions, and I just get these like fantastic answers. Like,
Well, it's because we've had to deal with it, because
Yeah.
these aren't hypotheticals in this world. It's not someone nudging a Coke can piece of terrain, nudging a model with a Coke can at LVO,
Yeah.
or the London GT, rather, not LVO, sorry, London GT a couple of years ago, and cheating on stream at 40K.
Yeah.
That's the result of that was someone gets a yellow card, and people are like, "Brr, cheating, streaming, blah blah blah," and like internet outrage.
Yeah.
In our game, it's someone doesn't check their helmet correctly,
Someone gets
and
hurt.
then homeboys eating through a straw for 6 months in the hospital.
Yeah.
The stakes are higher,
Yeah.
and so bad actors, their bad actions get amplified,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of us are very on watch for that because we want to protect everyone.
There's a small parallel here with just like sort of like platform responsibility for other AOS guys, like saying
Yeah,
stupid shit, you know, at home versus saying stupid shit when you have 1,000 people following you. Like there's some
yeah,
personal responsibility there too. This is why
yeah,
the internet is quite the cesspool it is because bad actors
yeah,
it get amplified here too,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
So
it's the thing is that the amplification is more for AOS and war games because the visibility is higher. More people know about AOS than know about SCA, and more people follow it online because there's just more of it online.
hmm
But the stakes are lower.
hmm yeah.
And harkening back to what we said very very early in the beginning, the lower the stakes, the sharper the knives are. People like to argue shit when there's no real stakes.
Well,
You know.
it's pride. Pride is
Yeah.
a hell of a. I mean, it's such a
Yep.
because it exists in the esoteric. It's personal.
Yep.
It's just a different. If you're fucking arguing over a trophy and you think you can win a trophy at the next thing, it's a
Yeah.
little bit different from that sort of visceral, personal. When your ego, and I don't mean ego as
Right.
in like arrogance. When your
Right.
ego, the
Part of your
psychological,
personality. Yeah.
yeah, when a part of your personality is threatened by this thing, then the only stakes, if that's all the stakes are, it's tooth and nail.
Right. And
So
that's why we have our whole, like, we don't give a f about the politics of it because it helps curtail that.
yeah, no, I like that.
Because as soon as someone starts waving those flags, we're like, remember this? Remember we don't give an f about this? Like, why don't you simmer down?
Right,
Why don't you just like be cool?
right.
Like, let's get 10 of our guys together. Let's put our lids on and let's go run some dudes over with shields. That'll be fun. Let's do that, and we'll do that instead. How about that?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. The fuck it, dude.
Um,
Let's go bowling.
yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, that's it. And I mean, so Knigget asked, do you guys have musicians in your units? We do and we don't. So almost nobody has musicians who will carry musical instruments because it's not safe. And it's not safe because I am not going to watch to see if you have drumsticks in your hand or a little teeny tiny dagger. I'm just going to run you over. And drumsticks will break, they will become sharp, and they will inevitably wind up in someone's eye. So you can't have musical instruments. You can't have a flute because a flute will break. Those kind of things, you can't have them. What we do have are singers. So we have a musical element sometimes, but it's singing.
Mm.
And singing is fucking fantastic when you fight. It has like a morale boosting effect. Some people chant. Famously, I've mentioned them once or twice, the Two Chucks, because that's a unit that is sort of like infamous. And what they do is they chant the name of their unit. They'll like run across the field going Two Chucks, Two Chucks, Two. And it's like an army cadence for like running. It helps you open up your lungs. It helps you get air in. It forces you to engage that part of
You
your
oxygenate a
your
little bit too.
diaphragm.
Yeah.
Because honestly, ain't none of us Navy SEALs up here. We're a bunch of middle-aged medieval fanboys, and you know what? Engaging the diaphragm is great for sucking in air. So we'll have people who sing.
Like
Bards
critic.
are the most, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bards more like bastes. Yeah, yeah. Bards are
um,
great.
so like we have, for example, we have some people with great voices in our unit, and they'll sing
Mm-hmm.
when we're marching up to a battle. We'll all chime in on like battle songs,
That's
and it's kind of dope. Not gonna lie.
cool.
Like you get a bunch of like hodgepodge of dudes standing around in like different uniforms and kind of defending a castle wall, and here comes 45 guys in black and green with a Hydra banner, like 10 feet tall, like waving across the battlefield, and we're all singing, this song about like being brothers of the sword and coming back on our shields or not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, someone
Like,
out there just starts out with the oh death. with, like, and you just
Yeah.
like play it.
But
Yeah,
we have like
the
real medieval songs that we
yeah,
sing,
that's cool.
and adaptations of them, and it's great. So I mean, the question about musicians is legit, and it does kind of work the way it does in AOS.
Yeah.
So yeah, playing AOS has made me better at SCA.
Hmm.
I said that earlier, and it's because I talked before about translating what you're seeing into what you know.
Hmm.
So I see forest, I see low-lying area, I see a hill, and I know it rained 2 days ago. That's what I know. What I
Hmm.
see is 30 dudes over here wearing one color and 50 dudes over here wearing another color. And I know my guys are behind me. And then behind them is like a ragtag bunch of lovable misfits that make up the rest of our gang. And then like over there, I can see like, oh, like Sir Mo's like Spear Mafia. And I see like another unit I recognize over there. And then I see Black Talon over there. And I kind of know what those units are sort of like known for. And it gives me an idea of how they're going to react based on what like happens on like an AOS tabletop. Like for example, Black Talon is this group that's famous for fighting with like giant shields. They have this big black talon on their shields, and they run around with like a million dudes with shields, and they're sort of a themed. That's their thing.
Hmm.
So I know ain't none of them going to be shooting, so I can confidently send someone over there who has a little bit of shooting support, and that'll give us an edge. Like I know those guys are iron breakers from AOS. They're not Volkites.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that dual role. Or I can look over here and be like, okay, well this is like house, such and such, and ain't none of them over 25. So guess who's fast and can run uphill still? Those dudes. you know. Um, so the idea of looking at things and assigning them roles like in AOS has helped me with Battlefield Command. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's
So
cool.
it was a long ass road to get to that answer, but there it is.
No, it was good. It was a good one. No, it's thorough, proper rantcast form too. Level Misfits sounds like my Gits army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, there's ragtag bands level misfits everywhere. That's they make the world go round. Watch any '80s movie.
And I feel like this is a pretty thorough rundown of SCA. Anything we're forgetting? Anything we're leaving out? Anything you knew you wanted to
Oh
mention?
no, not really. I mean, we've hit a bunch of stuff that I've wanted to talk about. I know that actually, yeah, there is one thing. I'm sorry.
No.
In the middle of
Cool.
saying that, I realized um, www.sca.org. So SCA, like Society for Creative Anachronism, Sierra Charlie Alpha.org. Go check that out. And there's a tool on there that's like Find Your Kingdom or Locate Your Kingdom. It's right at the top of the page. Find Your Kingdom. It's basically you can look up by area where you live. So you can look up your state or your province or your country if you're outside the U.S. And then it'll take you to a page where it'll redirect you where you enter like your postal code or your zip code or your town name, and it will direct you to a page where you can learn who to contact in your local area.
Arizona is its own kingdom.
Sure.
Attenveld.
Yep. So it breaks down for you where you are and has a great resource for finding who can give you more information and more intelligently guide you on your journey.
Wait. Oh shit. Suck it, Illinois. You're not part of our kingdom. I mean, that makes sense.
What are they, part of the
Yeah, mid realm.
mid realm?
Yeah.
Yeah, mid realm. Uh,
You got some stories about them?
no. I'm just busting chops. It's just you threw out a name, and I wanted to inject some drama into it.
Fair enough.
There's your performative
Oh,
nonsense.
I like gamesmanship. I like
Yeah.
that stuff personally, and maybe it's the wrestler, maybe it's just the shit talker, internet troll in me. Like I don't know. I like some of that. I enjoy the.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I like it too, and I've learned to really, really throttle back on it in SCA.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it in like come at me, bro, in AOS all day long. Like Vostarg, best Starg, and like if you're not playing Fire Slayers, you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. Like I don't care. Like I don't play Gotrek because he's not a fire slayer. He's missing the keyword. Fuck off. Like you're like a refugee from the before times. Get out of here, kid. You know.
Yeah.
Um. So stuff like that. Like I love a good like
The ribbing,
you
like the proper like
yeah.
smack talk. Yeah, yeah.
Like
But in
you listen to
S,
honest. You
yeah,
listen to Honest Wargamer, right? You know Rob.
familiar with him.
Okay. So Rob has an Honest Wargamer has this thing of like let's have good natured shit talk. Let's have like football club rivalries.
Hmm.
Let's do this and that. And I love it. I love it. I'm 100% on board for that.
Hmm.
Um, People at SCA take that shit too serious sometimes. And
Right.
if you start talking shit about like this unit or that unit, if you're joking and they don't know that
Uh-huh.
because you are someone who takes it casually like me and you're just like, I'm just here to like roll with my guys and hang out and have a good time, drink some beers afterwards, sit around a campfire, like tell stories and like smack people. They don't know that. That's not a cultural thing that might exist with them. They might be
Yeah, that's fair.
unbeknownst to you, they might be the guy who spent $10,000 on a
Yeah.
handmade Italian suit of like Maximilian armor. Like that dude might have put a second mortgage on his house to buy like a bus to take him to SCA events and then like build like a wooden castle for 2 weeks at Penzic. People do that. People put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this. That dude might not be cool with you being like, know who sucks? Your unit, bro. Guess what? Your unit sucks.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm just playing, but he doesn't know that. And it becomes like a whole like shitty, hip hop culture, East Coast, West Coast nonsense thing all of a sudden.
Oh my god.
And you're just like, I was just trying to be funny and invite you over for like beers and like to hang out with us. And I thought I would rib you a little bit beforehand because that's the alpha douche broy culture that we have.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't
Well,
have
we're
that?
all we're all irony poisoned, right? Like we're just fucking irony poisoned
Well,
up
some
in that.
people are and some people aren't,
Yeah.
but you can't tell that by looking at them. There's no label, you know.
Right.
So you get people who are like, you know, uh, not bad people, but they have a very different approach to the game. And if you only see them once a year, like how are you supposed to know? So
Don't.
I don't do it at SCA because the last thing I want is more drama. I want
Well,
less drama. I
do
want
people
more fun.
headhunt? Like, do you, I know, like,
Yeah.
cause with the units and stuff like that, the way they might break down, like your unit's maybe going over here. But are you ever looking for somebody on the battlefield, or people ever looking for somebody
Yeah.
on the battlefield?
All
And
the time.
oh,
All the time.
yeah,
Because you're looking to take out the leaders. You're character hunting in AOS. You're trying to put mortal wounds on, whatever, your rune smiter.
and I can imagine sometimes like people's personal beef might come into that if you are
Oh
the
yeah.
being a
Yep.
douchebag at the bonfire beforehand or something like that.
Yep. And it shouldn't, but it does because it's an organization made up of people, so it's going to have good and bad no matter what. Like,
Right. Right.
I've been headhunted. I took a shot one time that was so severe that it bent the brasswork on my helmet, and the whole front of the helmet was hot from the kinetic force being dispersed. So someone punching me in the face with a spear so goddamn hard, I thought I was going to pass out.
Mm.
And it was because me and my guys had developed a tactic during this engagement that was just working, and we were getting 8, 9 kills apiece, which is like a ludicrous number
Yeah.
before we got killed because we just like we had this scenario on lock. We just like
Trading up, as they say, right? Like really just.
yeah, yeah. We saw the Matrix. We went like Homer Simpson cross-eyed. We like entered a fugue state and could not be killed.
Yeah.
So they sent like homeboy, like the Terminator with a spear, to come take us out. And was it within the rules of the game? Yeah, absolutely. You can go headhunt a unit commander. Like I was the guy giving the orders, so without me directing people, but it was like it had a little extra vinegar on it, a little extra sauce on it that maybe it didn't need to have. You
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
so yeah, it does happen. And so am I shit talking that guy? No. Like I'm not gonna name his name. Like he knows who he is, and
Yeah.
we're friends. And
But you know what it
we
was. You left the cards out on the table. You did it like
yeah,
that. Yeah. Right on. Yeah.
yeah. And it's not great. It's not the way I play. But is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. It's not my version of right though. And I think a lot of it boils down to that. I mean, I think a lot of what I said boils down to it's not wrong, but it's not my particular flavor of right.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is the same as AOS. I think it's picking up hits versus picking up misses. If you don't know how they play, you might do something wrong, and they might get all bent out of shape about it.
Counting down on your counting
Oh
the wrong
yeah,
direction on your charting.
yep,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. You fucking weirdos who count backwards. What are you doing? I don't get you.
Right.
Shots fired from Mephisto. Look at that gear change from like stakes there. Like you could have had a concussion to me like being snarky about people's dice.
Well, I know there's people who'd rather have a concussion than argue about a D6 roll. So
There's something honest to fighting, honestly. Like I think there's a oh my god, I'm gonna boomer out of here. There are some people who have never been in a fight in their life, and it shows.
it shows, yeah.
I'm just gonna put it that way. Like, there's just like sometimes you just need to catch hands to humble up some. Like,
There's a lot of that. Like, you know, we talked about percussive maintenance. That's a
like,
thing.
it's just like people get so afraid of. There's this part in Firefly which I absolutely love, which I think illustrates the TV show Firefly, that absolutely illustrates the difference between like violence and just a fight, right? And
Yeah.
there's that like scene where they're in the bar like on Unification Day, and like he basically shit talks to getting into a fight, and Simon Tam is like he's like, wait, were the feds involved? He's like, no feds, just a good honest fight between folk, right?
Yeah. It's the old West kind of philosophy.
You're just like just throw hands and whatever, and then you get to like sort of separate and go and I think that's kind of what's cool about the SCA from my like weird messed up perspective, is that there's sort of like an honest, just a good honest fight between folk, and then you get to like slap high fives, fist bumps, and go your separate ways at the end.
Yeah. With
And
with with people who approach it the way you do. Yeah, absolutely. And I do too. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I agree. I 100%. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shut you down, but like you said it. you know.
um, yeah. All right. Yeah. So I mean, I don't do a hard pivot here, but is anything else you want to talk about SCA before I pick your brain about riffs a little bit?
No, no, I'm good, man. I encourage everyone to try SCA. Melee fighting is the most fun you can have with pants on. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's fantastic. There's easy ways on the SCA website to like find your local. If anyone wants help or resources, I am on the 36 Chambers Discord here for RantCast. Dope name, by the way, Wu Tang. And like all middle-aged white guys who grew up in the 80s, I love Wu Tang. Uh,
Oh,
so
Incantabot's not on right now.
what's that?
I said Incantabot's not on right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you're on the Discord, definitely feel free to find me, and like I can help anyone out who wants to get started, or I can point them in the right direction, or I'll answer questions, whatever. I'm all about community and growing it. So that's the
Yeah.
last thing I want to say.
Yeah. If you're watching on here we go. We'll get a Incantabot turned on here. If you're watching back on the VOD, links to the Discord will be in the down there part. Right next to that like and subscribe button that you should totally smash with your face into your keyboard. But for those of you here live in chat, if you're not part of, I think everyone I see currently chatting is, but there you go, Incantabot. There's for the 36 Chambers. Yeah, chat gang. Wu Tang. Like it happened. I don't know how. Yeah. So we talked about like a bunch about SCA, and this would be the hard pivot to riffs. I found out that you're a riffs like fanatic, and I can't not talk
Lifer.
to you about riffs. So
Love it. Unleash the beast.
um, so is it your favorite RPG? Is it like I know you talking about how like you run like you've kind of been running like a sort of like a one continuous game with like sort of seasons to it, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, like an episodic content game. Yeah.
yeah. I mean that's actually how I think of my normal campaigns anyway. Is I think of this is an anime series of like or a TV show, and I've got 26 episodes, quote unquote, or about a year of X number of adventures, and I kind of roughly have them planned out. Sometimes there's tangents that take us a little bit off script, and I embrace that a little bit. You know, the party really hears about this dungeon that I totally thought, or some manor that I thought was a throwaway thing, that suddenly becomes an episode. Now I got a pencil in there, so it's a rough thing. You know, now suddenly they're over here, but we all end up back here. I kind of run stuff like that anyway. One of the things I learned way too late in my GMing career is to like plan for an end of your games, because you always like
Ending's the most important part. It's the most important part.
well, but you get in that moment when especially when you're younger, and you just want to play the game forever, and
Yeah.
and you don't think about like, well, yeah, but if I plan this to end here, I can always like renew it for a second season, quote unquote. And I started thinking about my games that way probably about eight years ago. So it's recent in terms of like I've GM'd
Yeah,
like almost 30 years, like the
yeah,
majority percentage of my life. So for only 8 years ago to like have started thinking about it this way is like very new.
yeah,
And you do it that way, like that's your shtick.
yeah.
You want to just kind of touch on what that means to you, like
Well,
what is
you'd ask me
Go ahead.
you'd ask me if Rifts was my favorite RPG.
Yes, I did.
So it's not,
Ooh, okay.
but I like two other RPGs better. I actually have an answer for this. I'm not like they're all my children. I love them all equally. I don't.
No, no, no.
Some RPGs are trash. Uh,
Shots fired.
well, listen, whatever. Go read the RPG.net Fatal review. It's the best writing ever. Um, so okay, so there are RPGs I like better. However, Rifts is my favorite RPG that I can get people to commit to and actually play.
I see.
I'm a huge believer in curating your RPG group to fit the system you want to play and fitting the system to the players you have. Like if you're dogmatic about it and you're just like, no, we play 3.5 D&D in this household and that's it because I love splash books and bloat,
Yeah.
you know. Like, okay, but if you have players who don't like that, are they going to have fun? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about putting the two together in a way that makes sense for me because really I'm the one putting in the work, so fuck them. Like players will play what I offer. Like this ain't Qdoba or Chipotle where you can walk down a menu and like a line of stuff and be like, I want this, I want that, I want this, and just point to things and have me serve you up a delicious bowl of something. Like it ain't that. This is like a chef's tasting menu. You'll eat what I put in front of you because why? Because I'm the one cooking it. Like you want to play something different, you goddamn sit behind the screen, chief. And I've become very very unsympathetic to my players whining about it.
So curmudgeonly, I love it. It's just
But
this is the peak get off my lawn energy right now that I.
yeah, but it works. I've never had a complaint since I started running it that way
Mm, yeah.
because I found a lot of times when people are picking at things like that, like they want this, they want that, and they want this, it's because they're expecting to be disappointed.
Well, there's a little. There's a I get in trouble for this sometimes, having this perspective. Don't listen to your fans.
Yeah, no,
If you're like you're writing a book, you're making a movie, like making a game,
yeah,
don't listen to your fans. Like it's you can listen to your fans' feedback, and there's a way in which that fan telling you about the stuff is relevant. The actual construction of, and this is from my writer perspective, as a writer, as a creative, as an artist, don't listen to your fucking fans for that stuff. Like they don't know what they want in the aggregate. If you listen to
yeah.
the fans on like a sequel for a Star Wars, you just get the most milk toast, watered down. Just have an identity, make the thing. Now that being said, I do think RPGs are like a collective experience more so than like other art forms. But
Once they're in progress, they become
yeah,
collaborative.
but the GM has to have some reason for running the thing, and
Yeah,
they have to have some skin in the game in what they want to run, right?
yeah.
Like,
I always use a food metaphor. I don't care how you eat what I cooked. Like eat it with a straw, eat it with a spoon, like eat it with your hands. I don't give a shit. Whatever makes you happy. But I'm the one cooking it, so when it hits the table, it's going to be my creation. Then after that, like we'll all have a meal together, and that meal may go this way, may go that way. You may want seconds, you may not. You may want hot sauce on it, you may not. You may want more salt. Like that's up to you.
yeah.
But the core of what's being presented, like don't come into my kitchen and be like, I want like asparagus in that, and I'll be like, it's a fucking hamburger. You don't put your asparagus on that. Like I'm cooking hamburgers today. Get out of here. You cook
Hotsford,
asparagus. You cook asparagus on your own time.
Hotsford dropping 1,000. Repeat, remind everyone, Chat Gang ain't nothing to fuck with. Man, so what I gotta ask, what are the other two RPGs that are before Rifts?
Okay. Second edition Changeling the Dreaming,
Ooh,
which is
that would have been that would have the late 90s, early
yes,
late 90s. Yeah, yeah,
the
that's
1996 issue of it.
yeah.
Changeling the Dreaming second edition. Um, because my favorite written work of all time is Stephen King's It, and themes of innocence lost and the transition in our lives when we lose access to magic because we stop understanding that magic can be and doesn't have to be literal magic but can be positive like the white in to use Stephen King's parlance. where we start losing access to that because banality starts creeping in and like destroying that part of us,
Hmm.
is a theme that resonates really deeply with me for personal reasons that I like, choose not to share. But that whole thing just speaks to me on a creative level that like I can read a Changeling book and get sad like reading it, and then get happy reading it.
Hmm.
So I love Changeling, and anyone who hates on original World of Darkness can bite me.
Yeah, they're
It's
wrong.
not it's not a great system, but I don't care about system. System is just the tool you're using. It's like arguing whether like a Black and Decker hammer or a Makita hammer is better. Like I don't give a shit. I just got to pound nails.
Yeah.
So Changing the Dreaming, second edition, top of the pile.
Okay.
And then the Whispering Vault.
Never played it.
Oh my god.
Changeling I've
So
played. The Whispering Vault I'm not. Yeah.
the Whispering Vault was a little indie game. I forget who even put it out. Ronin Press. I don't even know. Somebody was on.
Green Ronin, right? Would have been.
No, not Green Ronin, because they're the ones who do all those D&D supplements, right?
Yeah, but then they transitioned to making the unique.
Yeah,
Comics.
yeah. No, it's not. It's something similar to that. Pariah Press, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. Some
Pariah
edgelord.
Press. We like to be accurate here. 1990 originally published
Okay.
1993. Pariah Press.
Yes, Pariah Press. Yeah, I remembered it was Edgelord Word Press. So Whispering Vault it's like Pacific Rim. Okay, not in content. Pacific Rim is either the coolest dumb movie you've ever seen or the dumbest cool movie you've ever seen. Because
Accurate.
it can't be both, but yet
Jaeger bomb.
somehow it is, right?
Yeah, it's just a Jaeger bomb. Get it?
And
Bleh.
and
It's so dumb.
Whispering Vault is that for RPGs.
Okay.
Whispering Vault is either the dopest RPG on the planet or like the biggest pile of shit.
Hmm.
Um, it's a fantastic game that puts you in the shoes of essentially a Cenobite
Ooh. So,
from Hellraiser,
yeah. So you like? I have such sights to show you. Like.
but not that. That's not the agenda. So it's a game about people who saw too much during life, who became like sort of Lovecraftian heroes, where they're doomed by knowledge, blah blah blah.
Okay.
And then after they die, they're offered a job defending reality because their tiny human brains can handle the things that they've seen. So the conceit is you lived a full life, you saw beyond what reality has to offer, very much like Changeling again. Like this theme is like my favorite. And when you die, you become this thing called a stalker. And then the idea is you make like a little circle of Cenobites with you, and you're all like weirdos and horror movie villains, and you defend reality from things that would attack it, just like the Cenobites do. Because the Cenobites only came when the box was open, and when the box opened, reality's walls broke, and they were like, "Nah, dude, not okay."
Yeah, Cenobites are like in the what is the Hellbound Heart?
Oh,
Like
that
they're
part,
yeah. I mean they're angels to some, demons to others. Like
yeah.
their
Right?
whole the film conceit, because just how film construction,
Yeah, of course.
you can't leave things nebulous
Right.
and have it
Yeah,
a 30 hour and a half runtime with you know
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, the whole, they get very firmly locked as like more horror in the films than in the Hellbound Heart, where they're not good guys by any
No,
stretch, but they're
but
just
they're
not
not
operating
also.
on the same. They're just not
Yeah, they're not
operating.
also out to do evil. They're
Yeah,
not out to do evil. They
yeah,
do things that are considered evil because they're extreme, but they're neutral. They're like the guardians of reality's little box,
yeah.
and I love that. I love that idea.
Hmm.
So those are my two favorite games, but like you need the right group to play it, because
Mm.
if you play Whispering Vault with people who are just horror fans, it just becomes like slash porn, and it's dumb.
Yeah, then they're not really like. I mean, Vampire has
Yeah.
that problem. You got what I call Cane Bros,
Yep,
and,
absolutely. I know
and
exactly what you're talking
and like if you're playing with a bunch of Cane Bros, like I mean, you're not tapping into this like. Yeah,
about.
you can.
You're missing the point.
Yeah, I like the personal horror aspect of VTM. Like I love that. Like
Yeah.
I struggle with my inner demons. I know, like boring boring white boy on the internet, as much as one can have demons, but I do, and the story of like, am I the villain in my personal life? Am I the thing I try to project into the world of, am I, how much good do I have to do to make up for a lot of the bad I've done? And, this
Yeah,
idea of like, am I struggling with this monster inside? Like, and making that sort of a literal aspect of your game and playing
yeah,
out that, like, the aspect of the hunger and the darker half. And
yep,
I really enjoy that. And then you have these like fucking Kane bros who's like, I can get this much celerity and like
yeah.
good.
Potence 3.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're not vested in the horror remotely. It's a superhero. It's a
yep,
fucking superhero game with everyone gets to play
yeah.
Blade.
It's Underworld.
Yeah,
It's Underworld.
Underworld. Yeah, and I don't when that happens. And don't get me wrong, that there's a joy to that, but I'd rather do that in like Rifts. Like, I'd
Right.
rather play.
Or Dead Rain.
Yeah, like I'm in this game with a humanity mechanic
Yep.
and a beast that I'm fighting against and a hunger system. Not to like like to revile and celebrate the like fucking
Yeah.
blood drinking blood's like the most metal thing ever. Oh, this is fucking cool. Like no, your character's like an addict.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, the vernacular we use for it is they're rubbing themselves in peanut butter because someone's just like so in love with it. They're just like, oh, I'm so like, oh, just like rubbing myself with the peanut butter. I'm just wallowing in this, like
yeah.
licking my
Yeah,
fingers.
that
Just like,
doesn't mean you can't do that a little bit. There's like I think
but
that like the
no,
best games are like they swing. You get to have the like deep moments of personal horror and
yeah,
reflection and stuff because you kind of had that silly like
right.
kind of out
Because you
there.
have like a little cathartic nonsense moment to like
Yeah,
punctuate
yeah, like
the lightness of it. Yeah, and so like Whispering Vault is that for me. Like I can't like one day I'll find the magical party where I can play Whispering Vault, and then I can retire from DMing and go live on a farm like fucking Thanos. Like my mission has been accomplished. I made half my party unhappy and ran my game. Uh, yeah, and like those two games are awesome, but like Rifts is a completely different animal from that. It's like it's 180 from all that,
it
and
is. Yeah.
Rifts. My description of Rifts is always to my players is don't you want your inner 12-year-old to be happy? Like, don't you want the kid that
Mhm.
thought Ninja Turtles were cool and that thought
Yes.
the A Team was cool
Yeah.
and that thought like
The first kid
One
that ever
Punch
watched
Man was
Robotech or
cool?
Macross, like
Yeah.
that
Don't,
for
don't you
yeah.
want don't you want to get in touch with that kid? Isn't that kid still inside of you? Doesn't that kid want to grab a railgun and roll a bucket of dice and like high five people over how awesome you just were? Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with that? Like, why can't we put down the numbers crunching D&D nonsense and just like, you know,
Well, like
just play this game that's like joyful in a really weird way.
I don't want to pile on D&D too hard because it seems like it's become trendy and like
Yeah.
I don't like to I don't know. I don't like
Oh,
the
edition wars are lame.
yeah, I don't but like one of the problems I personally have with running Dungeons and Dragons is it is too numbersy.
Yeah, me too.
And if it takes you out of like Rifts is a bad system. Mechanically speaking, it's like I like it, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't know. It's so it hasn't had a proper like revised or second edition like anything to streamline the bring the bloat back in. We still have like the CJ Corella out like Fallout.
Well, but I
And
mean, there's Savage Rifts, so I don't know that I agree with you 100
I
percent
don't
on
I don't
that.
like Savage Rift, so it just
Well, I don't like it either, but it is a revamp. It is an overhaul.
it's a different
I hate
company
it.
bought the IP and applied their
Well,
little
all right.
generic.
I
Uh,
mean, sure, I agree with you.
but
Listen, Rifts Ultimate Edition for life. Like,
sure, yeah, yeah, it did enough. Um, but it no, but like the thing is like the what Rifts does is it's almost like the there's parts of the stuff that's bad of the system that enhance it for me. Like D percentile for your skill rolls. I think they're a little bit too low. Like the success rate is a little bit too low.
yeah,
Which is why as a GM you usually don't roll the D percentile unless it's
right,
something that matters. You
right. I do the same thing.
you get to
If
drive a
you're
car or your hovercraft or anything like that. If you're gonna like try to like do some like
no,
evasive
yeah,
driving, then you're rolling
that
the D percentile.
right. Or if
That's
you're under fire or you're doing something heroic, like
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if you're making your players roll like to drive a car every time they want to drive a car, like are you also making them roll to like take a piss? Like what are you doing as a DM? You're just
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing this like pedantic disservice to
But
your players where you're systematizing everything.
right, right, and that's the thing is like we're as soon as you like realize that like one extra step as a GM with Rifts becomes it's just this like I mean it's the Cenobites. The box is kind of open, man. Like it's just
Yeah,
it
love it.
like you just possibilities are endless and you the rules never get in your way. And as soon as you learn how to like just like use them to your will a little bit,
Yeah,
the rules never get in your way. It doesn't have the problem that D&D has, where like combat is so mechanical and
so
gamey.
codified. Yeah, yeah. It's almost a board game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
just go ahead.
I think Rifts needs a game master with a firm hand on the wheel and an ability to say no or say yes or yes but.
Yeah,
And if you have that and you can curate your experience, which I'm a huge fan of in all aspects of life, the game is sublime. Like truly, it.
yeah.
The thing is, if you ask people in a vacuum, divorced from system and divorced from crunch and all that nonsense, you go, "What do you think is a dope sci-fi movie?" Right? No one's saying AI. Like no one's mentioning like low key nonsense like sci-fi. Not that AI was necessarily that, but no one's mentioning some cerebral thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is your favorite sci-fi movie to watch? Like I loved Ex Machina. I thought Ex Machina was a brilliant film. But no one's putting that on the top of their list. They're like Fury Road, Pacific Rim, Star Wars. You
Yeah.
know, those are the movies people.
Aliens.
Alien,
Yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Like those are the movies that are people's favorites. Are they the best? No. Are they your favorite? Fuck yeah. And Rifts is that. Like as soon as you put it in those terms, people like come around.
Well,
Where you're like,
yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, just the this is my sharp edges theory, where I think that something like imperfection at some point enhances the experience. Like sharp edges are memorable. If
Yeah.
it's smooth and perfect, and it's like I have a nice perfect smooth orb here in my hand, like cool, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to remember it from any of the other perfect smooth orbs. But you put a little sharp edge on that, or I'm going to remember that fucking I'm going to remember that one,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. It's like texture. You can get all your nutrition out of a pill.
yeah.
And then just eat a handful of sugar for calories. You can be like that dude in The Martian. You know, I have all my nutrients in this pill, and all I need is calories from these potatoes, and I'll be good forever. Like, sure, that's technically true, but that's no way to live.
Yeah.
I want rail guns, and I want juicers, goddamn it, and I want
Yeah.
nonsense. I want a cyber samurai. Like, why? Because it's badass, and my inner 12-year-old is like doing like mental kick flips, like excitedly at the skate park about this
Oh
bullshit
yeah.
in this game.
Oh, there's
But there's
fucking
nothing wrong with that. Like,
yeah.
embrace it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 Cool. So one of my this is kind of my main sort of last I guess question. We've got. I just wanted to gush about Rifts just a minute.
oh
Um,
my god, me too.
the one of the challenges I have with running Rifts is like selling people on it,
Me too. Yep.
and you seem to have kind of figured that out a little bit better than me, anyway. You want to touch on that? Like, you've got some proprietary tech. We don't need to give away the secrets here, but like,
Oh,
just kind
whatever.
of.
It's open source. um,
uh,
if anyone is on the Discord, like in the RPG thing, I put like a wall of text up for how I do it, and your mileage may vary, but this works for me, and feel free to steal it. Like knock yourselves out.
well,
Um,
running Rifts, like, how have you sold? Like, because you couldn't quite sell your players on the other stuff, and but like you got them all to come to the table for Rifts. Was it like,
yeah.
yeah,
So Rifts is I asked everyone to trust me. Basically, I was like, look, we played D&D. You like that game, right? And they're like, yep. I was like, was it a good D&D game? They're like, yes. I was like, great. Do you trust me not to like lead you down a terrible path and like mug you for like your D20s in the dark alley? Like I'm not going to do that to you. I want us all to have fun. And they were like, sure. And I was like, here's this gonzo system. Don't look at it. Don't read it. Like just be cool. Like come with me on this journey, please. And I just sort of Pied Pipered it, like to be perfectly frank. And then I realized that I had done myself a huge disservice because now I had 7 people who were looking at Kevin Zimbida's monument to himself on the internet and were like, how many classes are there? And I was like, they're like 80. And I was like, in those 2 books, there's 80. In these other 29 books, there's like 400
you
more.
don't you don't need to play a vagabond or like any of
No.
these other superfluous like
Yeah.
classes. They're play the hits, like play the hits.
There's 9 types of coalition pilot, not even robot pilot, just airplane pilot. Like in this coalition war campaign book. If you think that's relevant, you're wrong. So what I did, and I think where you're leading me is I did a character draft, which is something I love because I've had a lot of I've been DMing for an embarrassingly long time,
Hmm.
uh,
Nothing
longer than a
embarrassing
lot of
about it.
your longer than most of your listeners like, or so at least some of them have been alive, I'm sure.
Right.
Um, so I found that I run into 2 problems with rifts specifically. Analysis paralysis, number one, because it's
There's a lot.
unapproachably dense.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. It's hot gibberish.
Hmm.
It's just being thrown at you. You can't wade through it. You can't expect someone to wade through it. It's cruel to your players,
Yeah.
I think. And the other thing being people who are jaded and just fall into their own rut. I always play like the horny bard. Like I can't play anything other than horny bard because that's worked for me in the past. So that's just what I do. And you're like, all right, man, but Rifts doesn't have game balance. So if you're gonna play a horny bard, like you're just not gonna be able to hang. I'm sorry. Like horny bard doesn't do the same damage as berserker with a broadsword in this system because it's not squashed down like that.
Yeah.
Like D&D is very squashed.
Uh-huh.
Nothing towers above anything else. Um, and Rifts is not that. Rifts is I don't even know how to describe it.
The cosmonauts who take 1/1000th the damage
Yeah,
from laser weapons because they're
right,
designed to fight spaceships, and
right.
you can
And yeah, Mystic Knights. I'm immune to lasers.
yeah
Why? Because Kevin
magic
Zambita went all over it.
magic because
Yeah,
magic.
that's it. Because hand waving happened at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, and like, but the throttling mechanism is they're evil, so you need to get your GM discretion to play them.
Right.
Yeah, immediately one of the first games we ever ran like
Yeah.
had a fucking Mystic Knight in it. Like,
Of course it did. Yeah.
it, and we broke them by making them demigods because it doesn't say you can't. So demigod Mystic Knight. So immune to MD, immune to lasers, but also
Yeah.
MD, so immune to all the SDC crap too. Like,
Yeah. So you can't. I don't think. Well, I can't. I shouldn't say you because I don't want to speak for people. But I couldn't approach it the way I would approach another game.
mhm.
So I just was like, all right, here's the deal. We're gonna do a character draft. And the character draft was I saw the broadsword. It's just a sword for women, man.
Yeah.
It's just a misogynistic sword. It's just a sword for broads. Like your bard's kind of a kind of a Me Too problem. Why are you making gender assignments for your sword, bro?
I
That's
just
not cool.
Oh man,
Uh,
I love that the way I heard it. I don't know if this is the way you said it, but your bard kind of is a Me Too problem, which
yeah.
I like that wording. Like that, like they are. Oh, it's so true. It's so good though. Oh man.
Uh, so yeah. So the well, okay. Well, that comment's gonna stand. I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave that one.
Yeah. I'll just leave that
Uh,
there.
so,
That just stays there. You're gonna have to hold that.
okay. Uh,
Character draft. Character draft. Yeah.
yeah, character draft. Sure. I'm sorry. I'm just like it's the 2 Live crew of it all that's got me
Yeah,
thrown
Chat
here.
Gang is the show within the show. It's not a bit. It's not a line. I know that you've been a watcher for a while, and it's now you've experienced the show within the
Yeah,
show now. Like, yeah,
good.
yeah.
Bring it on. Um, so yeah, so character drafts. So what I do is I have this system that you can read up on the Discord if you're so inclined, or message me about whatever. And basically, I write a little primer that's like very tongue in cheek for Rifts. That's like, buckle up,
Mhm.
kid, because this is not the RPG you're used to. And I just tell people straight, like, just like this game is 75% awesome and 25% megalomaniacal nonsense.
Yeah.
And just like accept that. You're in like a Zack Snyder movie.
Hmm.
You're in.
Yeah. This is John Wick. Like, this is what was that? What was that? The shoot 'em up, like where they're just like every scene is solved with you're sliding around
Yeah,
like. Every scene is a gunfight. Like, I mean, that being said, like I've had the deepest RP running running Rifts. As I've had
Sure.
deeper RP in Rifts than any other because all the sort of peripheral stuff that's going on. Like one of the beauty of Rifts is one of the great beauties of Rifts is like when you make a character, you're the character. Like
Yeah, and there's room to play. Oh, and I see my boy Haas is in the chat. What up, Haas? Uh,
uh,
that's for you, Haas. It's our
the Hydra, yeah, 4 and 4.
he's in our fight unit. So that's
Yeah.
our sign 4, then a 0, then a 4.
I like it. Yeah, I like you throwing the gang signs up here on.
Yeah, Haas is Team Hydra with me.
Nice.
So yeah, we Haas is also playing in my Rifts game. So that's my guy. So yeah, you can play whatever you want, Haas. Au to you too, my friend. So yeah, we character draft. So and he can weigh in this because he was actually just in the character draft. So this is perfect timing. So I write a primer and I tell everyone, look, just accept the fact that it's over the top. It's Gonzo. Like there's things that aren't going to make sense. Just accept it and move on. You're in an action movie. Because everyone understands that. Everyone's like, this is not a police procedural. It's The Expendables. This is not Blade Runner 2049. It's Equilibrium.
I mean, it can be.
Sure, sure, but it's on the Gonzo end of the scale by default. Like stuff is going crazy.
Yeah.
And so then what I do is I write these character descriptions that are very, very small. They give a little blurb. And they're tied to concepts that I've already established. So, for example, a dog boy, a juicer, a cyber knight, whatever, an operator, these classic things. And then they'll have numbers like the juicer's number 1, the dog boy's number 2, the cyber knight's number 3. And then what I'll do is we'll take it like round robin style to like draft concepts. So you're not drafting a fully made up character. The character is still yours to build and develop, but you're drafting like a thing that might say like, oh, like as an example, one of them might say this character had a tragic life in the military. They mustered out when they saw too many of their men's lives being thrown away by a command structure that didn't care about them. And that might be like a dog boy who used to be.
I could see a BK brutal bounty hunter.
Sure.
XCS Special Forces, like who are
right.
actually a pretty badass class. Like
a headhunter merc, or it could be a Psy Stalker. It could be anybody.
Yeah, Psy Stalker.
But what we're drafting is the concept, not the rules, and that's the important part. We're drafting that person's place in the world. And then the next, that would be great for someone who wants to play a brooding, serious character. Someone who wants to be like a John Wick or one of these guys. But then the next thing might be one of the draft characters I had, which was talking about like, I'm going to change the world as long as you give me like a pulse rifle, a banana, and a pair of roller skates. And
crazy.
Like college. No, monkey boy geneticist. So like a genetically engineered orangutan who gets around on roller skates. Why? Because it's Rift. Shut up. He's got a lab coat and roller skates.
My crazy has a PhD in
Sure.
awesome.
Sure, why not? He's got pretty high damage. He's got his crazy PhD. But yeah, so
he put on the lab coat and the spectacles. I can see him now with the MOM implants. Oh man, crazies are great. I got a reputation for being a guy who played great crazies.
Nice.
As a GM, and they would always want me to have crazies in the game because I do them from a place. I've talked about during my horror movie marathon all last month the difference between like sort of the cynical horror and the compassionate, sympathetic horror. And my crazies always come from a place of like empathy and sympathy. Like I've mental health issues, struggle with it, and so like people, I think they don't even realize like that's the component why they love them, because it's coming from a place of like celebration, not just mockery of or like I had Mr. Oh my god, I forgot his name. Mr. Tibbers is what popped in my head where his name was supposed to be. It was like Mr. Fluffers or something like that. I had this crazy who had a catatonic fear of the dark.
Okay.
And so he like had night vision goggles, and like he just kind of like would always like wear the night vision goggles, and then he had this like this bear, and it ended up being like the bear really did have a demonic presence in it that was like a shadow, like a shadow demon or something like that, and like and so this thing that he was like clutching and that was like his safety thing actually ended up being this whole sub arc with the
Love it.
with the party, and they ended up exposing the demon and kind of helping him, like, not, he didn't like cure the condition but helping him confront it, and it was like this whole like three adventure sort of B plot of like, well, why the fuck is he afraid of the dark, and like, Mr.
That's
Fluff,
awesome.
and the party like loved it. It was just like total B plot, that just like was kind of just something I put in there because it was funny and cool, and I thought it was like very riffs, and
But it also is it's permissible in Rifts to put in stuff that's moderately gonzo, because against the backdrop of the setting itself, like it seems perfectly reasonable and like something to explore in a serious way.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're playing like heroic high fantasy, like Soulbound or something like that, you're playing like Warhammer Fantasy Role Player, Soulbound, or high level D&D, and someone's like, I have a teddy bear that makes me afraid of the dark, and everyone's like, all right, jabroni, how did you get in this party? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Well,
Like, if we're about to fight Ossiarch Bone Reapers, like, get your shit together.
yeah.
It becomes comedy or like something to downplay. But in Rifts, it can be something that's like legit, and I
Yeah.
think it legitimizes choices that would not fit in other games.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you talk about like the uh, baby with handgun versus demon and converse, right? Like it's
It's the
just
worst art. What is that art for? Who, like, I appreciate that your splat books have been $19.65 since 1996 and you haven't raised your prices, but at what cost, man?
it's
Like, like I'll pay $2 more to buy like to rebuy like the Mad Haven source book if you'll put an index in that some bitch. Like, like for real. Like baby with a handgun. I don't know. Is it even a baby? Like who's making baby-sized guns? It keeps me up at night. Is that
Wilkes
just a
Remy.
fat?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that just a fat guy with a giant oversized head and it's a normal sized gun? And if so, why is he sitting there naked in front of the Converse sporting demon monster with a carnival mask? Like I don't. Uh, what the fuck is happening in Detroit? That this is what's going on. Like, how did it produce both Eminem and this idiot? Like,
I don't know.
like I don't understand. But
Oh my god. Yeah, so
but yeah,
I'm
well,
sorry, I derailed it with the monkey lab coat roller skates concept.
uh, so good. That character's name is Doctor Buttons, because of course it is.
So you
Um,
draft like concepts and not even the
yeah,
rules yet. Okay.
you draft concepts, and then you draft, like, basically I write 5 per player. So I have 5 players, I write 25 blurbs, and they sort of just give an insight on the player. So like one into the character rather. So one might be like something goofy, and one might be something innocent, and so one might be something like heroic, and one might be like a description, and one might be some dialogue. You know, and it just gives a taste of like what it's meant to be, and it's kind of like if you were reading like comic book dialogue of like comic book characters, like by reading the dialogue of like Deadpool, you would definitely know what kind of character you're in for because he's fourth wall breaking and yelling about chimichangas and whatever.
For
Um,
I use
versus
I use this as a technique for NPCs. I'll write a blurb of dialogue
yeah,
and not even necessarily like a whole bio or
yeah,
anything. It depends on the role in the game. But like if I'm like I need this, like, you know, I need this character for this adventure, and they're probably going to stick around a little bit, but I'm not going to flesh them out like I would a big
right.
bad evil guy or a
But
main
you,
like.
but you need to set their voice. You need to
Yeah, and
set.
so I'll just write a little blurb of like the dialogue, and like I'll read that and I'll be like, okay, I know who this character is, and from that dialogue I can extrapolate out any
Yep,
conversation
and
with.
that's
Yeah, go ahead.
that's exactly what I do for the draft. Is I give a little snippet of how this character is in their world at the moment, and then players draft off that. They'll pick one that they like, and it goes around. Everyone gets to pick once in the first go, then the second go, then the third go, and then everyone gets stuck with one at some point until everyone has 5 concepts. At that point, I hand out the summary sheets for those characters. So like if you drafted the one about pulse rifle and banana and roller skates, you'd be like, I don't know what this is. Is this a crazy? Is this like a a child? Like, what is this? Is this like a DB trying to pass themselves off as human? They don't know what's going on. And then you get it, and you see that it's a monkey boy, who's a geneticist who escaped from Lone Star. So then you're like, oh, okay, well that's something I wouldn't have expected. Like, I would never have thought in a million years to play a mutant monkey who's been like Planet of the Apes sized into like human intelligence, who now has like a PhD and runs around on roller skates, which is like a little, it's the whole tank girl
Innocent,
silliness
yeah,
of
a
it.
little innocence to it, yeah, like
And
Shazam.
and the idea of that is then like, oh well, like maybe that will spark something in the player to be like, oh, that's something I would never have considered, but that could be kind of dope. That could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or they might discard it and be like, that's trash. But at least I got four more. So like, we had one that was like a guy yelling in French about defending a position against coalition soldiers, and that was his
Like
dialogue.
is this like a Quebec
Yeah.
Samus pilot or something?
Yep. Exactly. It was a
Right on.
it was a Quebec robot combat pilot.
Oh, VSAMs are so sweet. Like, I'm sorry, they're just fucking.
And that's literally what he was. He was a squadron leader of like a freedom fighting force from Quebec.
Hmm.
So his little blurb just ended with like some quote like, let's show these coalition swine what we're made of, and then it just in all caps said, donnez-moi plus de missiles, capitaine.
Yeah, that
And
fucking that VSAM art. Raymond Perez is like by far my
oh
favorite.
yeah, Ramon Perez is great. Yeah, hell
That
yeah.
fucking VSAM art for chat gang. Don't you want to play that? Of
Yep,
course you do.
it's Edgelord Macross.
like,
Get ready.
like Edgelord Macross. It's so
That's what
good.
it is. Look at that
Oh,
guy.
like his gun is so huge that it slows down when you shoot it.
It's so absurd. Yeah. It uses A-team physics. Like, we'll shoot the gun in free fall and that'll drive the tank around. Because that's how mass works. Anyway. so
Just lead into it. Lead it. Don't. Yeah.
so yeah, so they'll get their 5 concepts, and then they'll get the rules pack for it. And that'll say like, this character, and I'll use the monkey boy as an example because that's what I've been going to. Like, this character is a genetically engineered monkey who uh, escaped Lone Star and is now on the run and wants to like help people get their freedom from the coalition's evil clutches. And then it'll say like, oh, the rules are on this page and this and that, so people can look at it and then they can make a decision. And then they build their party from that. So they all talk to each other, and they work out like what they want to play out of what they drafted, and then they build a party as a team. And then the cool thing is that Rifts is so deadly that now their other characters they drafted become their bench.
Yeah. You mean this comic
Oh
strip
yes.
for Riffs? Um. Yeah. It's dope. It's actually like I just hand people this when I'm like if they don't know what
Yeah.
Riffs is, like here you go, read Machinations of Doom. And the thing is, like, this is a very like hard boiled, straight up plot, and it just. I feel like it's just like this is what Riffs can be, like there's so much, like you have things where you're taking trips to Atlantis and you're I usually, if I'm running Riffs, I tend not to fuck with Phase World in the same game, but I've had games where some Daruni repo bots
Yeah.
have like shown up, and like, so yeah.
Well, the brilliant thing about Rifts is also its downfall is that it's the kitchen sink. It's just like, I can make something in a blender and it can be delicious. I can make you a delicious like mixed drink in a blender, or I can make you like a delicious like soup in a blender. But if I throw the ingredients for the mixed drink and the ingredients for the soup in the blender at the same time, and then throw like a cheeseburger in there and like a light bulb and
Yeah.
blend it up, you're not going to want to drink that.
Yeah.
And that's what Rifts is. Rifts is like the plot blender. It's just like, you can use it to make something awesome if you can edit yourself, or you can make something that'll kill your players.
Yeah, curation is key. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's absolutely, like, curation is absolutely key. Like, you got to have a firm hand as a GM. I think that's when.
Sorry. He says that I'm going to get 300 nanites for my soup. We're playing No Man's Sky.
I
So,
haven't played it. Yeah.
oh, you're missing out. It's great.
I
there's
heard the launch was disappointing because like I heard about the game and I'm like, this is everything I want. And then like
It's
the launch didn't live up to it, but a lot of my friends who stuck with it have told me like it's getting close to what you wanted, and
oh,
I'm like,
it's fantastic. It's the best video game I've ever played. It's
I, I
amazing.
I just want that feeling of the space orb from Portal 2. We're just like, yay, space, and like And just like,
I,
hello, son, are you space? Yes, and we're a family
the,
again. Like,
the number one best feature is you can toggle multiplayer on and off like during the gameplay.
amazing.
You can just be like, oh, these people are annoying me. Click. Done.
Mm,
Now I'm in space alone again.
mm.
Refreshing.
Yeah, I just want to like the serenity of like space and exploration
Yeah,
and ignoring. Yeah.
it's so good. It's procedurally generated nihilism in a spaceship. It's fantastic. The story is so bleak, and the universe is so empty, and it's like Hannibal Lecter telling you to just be quiet. It's like slipping into a warm bath while he like slides a knife in your ribs. You're just like, oh, good.
Oh,
Well, this universe is so close to dying, but it's so pretty and peaceful here. I'm just gonna relax for a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
Sell soup to some
While while I
idiot
while
NPC
I
for now.
while I invent capitalism and ruin planets.
That's so good. I don't know. I like that's a show. That's a topic for another show.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky, 9 out of 10, fantastic game.
I just gotta
People,
address Redman here. Oh, sorry, finish your point.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So admiring my Hellblazer collection, I have up to 13. It felt the right amount. I had up until 11 for a little bit, but I did order all of the Sandman again for the second time, and that displaced all my Preacher comics. So now I need to find a place for all these fuckers. It's just a collection of like 90s edgelord comics. Is really like guy who got way too obsessed with anti-heroes for a spell, and then like the kind of person who would use a Spider Jerusalem as his avatar before he realized that like there's a lot of really cringe fucking people out there doing that. So had to distance myself from that one. Like, when did fucking Spider Jerusalem become the men's rights activist fucking avatar? Like, oh, fucking hell, man.
The internet.
Oh, fucking internet. It's the Bo Burnham. Who knew of all of the like things to come out of 2020, the most prescient piece of media would come from Bo fucking Edgelord Burnham himself. Like,
What? Hold up.
have you not seen
Because
Inside? It's fantastic.
no, I have,
Okay, okay.
but have you not seen Death Stranding?
I didn't play it.
Okay,
I didn't want the
because
physics balancing a shelf engine in my life. Just
more prescient than Kojima's masterpiece. Like
I don't know.
his
Or
game
Run the
that's
Jewels 4 was pretty dope too, actually, and came right when I needed it.
his game about a pandemic that takes place in 2020 that forces everyone to stay inside, and the most important people on Earth are delivery people because they deliver like tiny shreds of human connection while people are
But
cowering in their homes
he
and
released Death
society.
Stranding pre 2020, didn't he? Like it came
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
So you said most prescient piece of media,
To
and
come
that's
out of the year 2020, like
it
itself.
released in 2020.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Like it
Fair.
was about 2020 in 2020, written by a guy like 3 years before, who's like, you know what's gonna happen? Fucking bird flu. Get ready. Except it
Yeah.
was aliens.
Yeah, there's out or inside. I think it's
Yeah,
called
Inside was
or
great
sorry,
too.
hashtag
Yeah.
alive. Sorry, hashtag alive. Korean Korean zombie film. Sort of like about like a streamer ends up isolated in his house without food from a zombie plague, and I'm like, it
Oh,
it, it was in pre it was if it didn't come out in 2020 and was in post production like prior to that, I'd have been like, these fuckers watched 2020 happen and then made a zombie movie. And
yeah.
it hits so weird. Like, it was weird because it was like kind of cathartic. Is like going back and like watching it like in 2021 for my marathon. And like, it actually kind of became like a very hopeful piece. Whereas like when I watched it in 2020 last year, it was very like it's my thing is compassionate horror. Like I like horror
Yeah.
that has even like you can murder all the stuff you want, but like you have to have a compassionate message or like something in there. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, but like it was like yeah, I don't know. It just hit differently. It's what was it? Contagion was the other one that came out in like 2012 or some shit.
Yeah.
That one, I don't
Well,
know if you go ahead.
you want to hear something even trippier? We were before the pandemic hit in 2019. We were playing a mage game that my buddy Rob was running, and we put the game on hiatus right at like a big plot break
Hmm.
for like the holidays, for the 2019 holiday season, because we don't play over like because it's too hard to schedule
Yeah,
around
yeah,
Christmas and
like
New Year's.
yeah.
So we put it on hold, thinking like, okay, we're going to do the next big plot thing any minute now, and it was like a sci-fi version of Mage. And
Easy to do.
we're gonna go into 2020, and we're gonna like rock this next plot line. So of course, you know, never happened because of COVID. And we're like, so Rob, what was your plot line? He's like, yeah, my plot line was that the villains that you guys didn't kill in the first game develop a bioweapon that causes a bird flu that like kills people with like respiratory issues, and you guys have to like convince people to like stay indoors and quarantine. And he's like, it seems probably not like the best plot line to run anymore, you guys. Like, I don't know, I feel icky about it. And we're like,
We had a vampire game collapse around the same thing. Like they were doing a Thin
yeah,
Bloods plague. Like it
yeah,
was a plague that Thin Blood. So like people were catching it, but Thin Bloods could catch it in the fear that it could jump
hmm
to vampires proper was like kind of becoming the thing, right? And it was just like, and it was like, and there was like curfews and shit, and
oh,
and we're just like, oh no,
oh no, yeah,
like, and he's just
yikes.
like, yep, yike. It's so weird because I actually have like a pretty tough hide. Like I think I'm a pretty compassionate individual. I've got some decent capacity for empathy. All learned the hard way, by the way, because I was a huge shitlord growing up. But like the even with my thick hide, there's just that moment where you go oof, and it was just
Yeah.
like, and that was one of those. Um, it, I don't know, but yeah, Contagion 2011, where I remember watching it around the time, and because making fun of Matt Damon was just like part of Matt Damon, like it was just part of the enjoyment of Matt Damon around that time period, right? And I remember watching him like, this is the dumbest fucking movie ever. Everyone's so stupid. If you
Yeah,
haven't seen Contagion recently, like
it's
every
good.
person who's ever been like, if you get bit by a zombie, just fucking tell people you've been bit by a zombie and thought that that was contrived and that nobody would be like that,
Yeah.
and then you live. Fuck, man. Like I'm not. I I I like to quote this line from Spanish love songs band, which is, "I swear to God, I'm an optimist." Right before I say something super nihilistic, but god damn it, people are just, I
Yeah.
don't know, like
Nihilism is welcome here, though. I mean, with me anyway.
like I do believe, generally speaking, the human species is achieving more than not, and that we're heading in the right direction overall. That time is a slow, painful slog, and progress costs a whole lot the whole way. But when the chips are down, humans tend to like do the thing. We've been through catastrophe on untold levels of tragedy throughout the existence of the human species. The 65,000 years or so, that, or 200,000, I guess,
Yeah, whatever it
in
is.
total. But we've tended to, especially in moments of great catastrophe, we tend to like pull together and do stuff. Like I know that there's a lot of stupid shit like going on in the world, but even like humanity did pull together kind of across the globe and get a vaccine out in like a year's time, right? Like that was kind of remarkable, and like they stood on the backs of of giants to do it. Like engineering a brand new vaccine out of nowhere isn't exactly what happens. There's a lot of
Yeah.
it's you just shift your production over into a different gear, and you change the formula, right, and you figure some stuff out. But like we did that, like as a species, like the people who did keep you know un- unfortunately have to put their lives on the line to keep delivering, I guess, babies across the really awkward terrain with a weird balance beam on their back. Like that did happen. People
Yeah.
did pull together and do stuff. So I swear to God, I'm an optimist, but
Well, listen, the quote I like is, "I have to laugh because the only other alternative is to never stop crying."
yeah, yeah,
And I'm a big fan of tongue-in-cheek nihilism.
yeah. Well, I call
Like
it happy
like
nihilism. Like it's
I
the
mean,
sort of, yeah.
we have a whole Facebook thread, me and John and our friend Amanda, and we just send each other inspirational posters with like Werner Herzog quotes on them, which is like the most sublime form of art, and it was what the internet was invented to bring us. Like it's finally achieved peak communication,
Yeah. Yeah.
where I can send you a picture of a sunset that says, "I know evil exists because of the dead eyes of a chicken. Have you ever considered the dead eyes of a chicken?" And you're just like,
I,
There it
I
is.
I love misappropriated quotes as like its own type of meme, like its own type of like
Oh,
sub humor.
so good.
Like you just say so, like I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Gandhi, just like
Yeah,
shit like that. Like it just fucking cracks me up, and uh, and I really like the type of humor that just it takes you one way, and it just you if you like. Like it's just the pure, like the utter irreverence of unexpected. Like I'm seeing the sunset, and that's what's happening in a visual format, right? Like seeing the sunset here. So I
yeah,
respect it.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, what's the one I liked? I liked one that it's really juvenile, but like whatever. We're talking about Rift, so my inner 12-year-old's coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one of like a woman, she's standing in the sunlight, and like there's like this ephemeral kind of like dress that's like billowing out behind her, like all beautifully, it's all pink and rosy and everything. And then it says, just remember, as a human being, you're mostly just a bag of water and farts. And it's there's something like so nice about that. It's just like, there it is.
Oh,
That
I've been. Go ahead.
we're
Sorry.
taking that woman down a peg. She's just trying to stand in the sunlight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I keep getting a Sailor Moon inspirational quotes like in my
Yeah,
feed for some reason. Like I
yeah.
don't in suggested pages and stuff, and like honestly, I haven't told the algorithm I don't like them yet. And so I still like every few days I see like a new Sailor Moon inspirational quote, and I'm just like, thank you, Sailor Moon and or Mars or Mercury. I don't know which one you are, but thank you. And like it's been like keeping me like kind of together. I'm like I don't need. This is the kind of thing you don't admit out loud, but like yeah, thank you, Sailor Moon inspirational quote page that I just like I'm a little too edge lordy to like officially, but I don't want it to go away.
Yeah, what's wrong with Sailor Moon? If
Nothing,
it makes
nothing,
people happy, it
legitimately
makes
nothing.
people happy.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I have
it's
a weirdly encyclopedic knowledge of that dumb show.
I Magic Girl shows ain't nothing to fuck with, quite frankly.
Uh, the good Magic Girl transformation sequence is a thing of beauty.
I know I don't like to do the sort of forced dichotomy, but people who can't get behind like Magic Girl transformations, like, did you ever enjoy fucking Voltron or Transformers? Like, if you like Big Rob solving big probs and like transformation sequences with that shit, let me introduce you to Magic Girl transformations. Like, they're pretty dope too. Like,
And
so.
do you like Marathi? Because
Marathi Ultimate Magic Girl. Oh, it's so
I mean,
true. It's so
not
true.
not since the update, but in AOS 2, all she was doing was whipping out a wand that just had blood on it, spinning around in a circle real slow, while
It's
like
so
Luna and
true.
Artemis meowed at her, and then she was Big Marathi.
Yeah, and then her personal tuxedo mask chopped her fucking in
Yeah,
half.
yeah,
In the soul realm of
sure.
Slaanesh gullet. So, yeah,
Well, that dude can only play second fiddle for so long. He's got to get his.
yeah, right, right. All right,
It's a
man.
weird tangent. It's a weird
Yeah.
hole to go down.
Character draft. Anything? Kind of finish it off on that. I know we
It's
keep
it's
ending up
su-
in.
it's super complicated. Like I wrote it all up. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I'm tired, and honestly, I'm
No.
gonna explain it badly if I explain it anymore.
No.
But
No. Just
the
just
bottom line is, give if you want to do rifts and you think it's fun and you think it's dope, but it's silly and you're worried about your players getting overly, uh, you know, having analysis paralysis and getting overwhelmed. Give them a limited palette to choose from.
there you go.
Ask them to trust you, and go with that, and then walk them through the character making process. And the thing that most people have a problem with rifts is there's nothing to latch on to early on. There's too much. It's too much nonsense.
Yeah.
So just limit the nonsense down to a small menu and give it to them, and
Yeah. Yeah.
chances are they'll enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And if they
Right on.
don't, Rifts is so deadly, just like roll a crit, take them out, let them play something else.
There you go. Kicker saying, I need that transformation sequence for Marathi. If Warhammer Plus doesn't give me Magical Transformation Marathi, it's a complete waste now. Yep. Big agree.
I
Big
mean,
agree.
let's get magical girl transformations for more things, man. Like, why just Marathi?
AOS would be better with more waifus. I have held this
Yeah.
position the whole time. Like that. Like AOS. More. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying
agreeing.
more. That's it. Like AOS waifus. We need more.
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
give it to us, and give it to us in unexpected places, man.
Hmm.
If a Lumineth character has it, everyone will be like, all right, well that makes sense,
Yeah.
But it's a I don't
More.
know, man. Give us an Iron Jaw.
Well, give me a mommy of Behemoth. Like I want that. I want that like large, like a large woman, right? Like just
People are already buying troll hags, man. Like, give us the Magic Girl troll hag transformation. You know, why not? Like,
all right, man. We're gonna switch into in the closeout here. We got the final soapbox. Put a remind everyone of SCA, so on and so forth, and where they can reach you.
yeah. So SCA.org. The link should be somewhere in the chat, but it's been a minute. So you can check out SCA.org if you want to like find your local. There's a little finder tool on there. As far as me, I don't have a big internet presence. I don't know. It's just not my thing. But I am on the excellent Discord that Mephisto has set up that is fun and active and full of nice people posting nonsense a lot of times, but fun nonsense. So I'm about it. So you can find me on there. I'm Ulf_Paints. If you have questions about anything, feel free to hit me up. I love talking to people about stuff I love. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Everyone be good to each other. And if you want to come fight, come fight. It's awesome and cathartic and good for your mental health. I don't know.
Yeah. Fight people for real. Yeah.
Fight people for real.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here, man. This has been a blast. Thanks for indulging me at the end. There, we're just fucking shit talking riffs and stuff like this.
Whatever, man. What was I doing for an hour? Like,
and yeah,
everyone play Fire Slayers. Support your local diaper dwarves. Like, what's wrong with everyone, man? Get out there. Vostark for life, baby. Charge across that field.
This has been an episode for the history books.
All right.
I finally found like a Fire Slayers player. Like they're just, I know they exist, but it's like Fermi's paradox. Like where are they? Like
top of turn one charge, man. Top of turn one charge, mathematically likely.
And if
Get in there.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far watching the show, obviously if you're in Chat Gang currently right now, you're already liked, you're already subscribed. I just want to say real quick, earlier on, CJ U Busta, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon, exploring the buttons there. That was sweet. Hey, I have a Patreon, guys. You don't get anything extra. There are tiers. It's just for bragging rights. There's no paywalls for my content. I don't.
Join the Patreon. Don't be a bitch. It's less than if you buy like one chalupa a month, you can support the Patreon. I do. So get on there.
Yeah, and
you like this content? It's free already. Give the man a little bit of support. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so it's there. Soren made me make it. That's why it's there. But I do get a bunch of like really great shows. I've got the actual like schedule for RantCast, which is something I did for a little bit, then I stopped doing it. But then I did it way too much. So I have the next 2 months of AOS RantCast. More great shows like this starting up. I mean, there's another Decant cast coming up. There's a Christmas special. Finally, the Heywo Mephisto Weebcast or Otaku Cast is going to happen. So that's on my Twitter page. That's the pin. It's floating around on YouTube because I have a community page now. So hey, thank you for liking and subscribing enough to have a community page on YouTube. Everyone who watches the VODs. So yeah, I just wanted to do the little bit of advertisement now that we're 3 hours and 41 minutes into this and nobody's heard it whatsoever. But Chat Gang, as always, you're the show within the show. Thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. Really active chat, really great chat tonight. So really awesome. Thank you so much. All the great questions.
And let me get one more thing in.
Yeah.
Support Rantathon or you're not cool. There you go.
Yeah, that's
get in there, man.
Yeah, Rantathon. Yeah, that's happening next year, probably in July again. Probably end of July again. It just a lot of events don't seem to happen around then. It's about the perfect time to do it.
Start saving your pennies now and start painting up your donations now, man. I'm gonna donate something.
Right on. Yeah.
I'll send you something, and people should support it because it's a great cause, and there's not enough people doing stuff like that. And to support a community is important, but to support people outside your community is even more important.
It's my belief that I ended up with a platform kind of incidentally. I like talking about nerd shit, and this is fun, and I feel like personal responsibility. For me to not use the platform to do something good with it would just be that's bad. You don't. When you get in the room, you open a door for somebody else, right? And that's we've got this great community, and I'm not gonna. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think Rantathon is awesome, and I just, you haven't mentioned it yet, so I figured I would.
I don't take yeah, it's hard to yeah, self promotion
Take that
and
compliment.
taking compliments. Yeah,
Take a compliment.
I'll try.
All
I'll
right.
get better. I'll practice it.
Okay.
Like you practice your like phalanx formations and shit, and I'll practice taking compliments better. All right. Thanks again, man, for being on. Chat gang, you're the show within the show. Reason we do this thing. Drink your milk, pay your taxes, and I will see you next week.
Good night, everybody.